Okay, there I am. Sorry about the delay. I was trying to get things working, but apparently they weren't. But first, before I get to that, hi, how you all doing? Hope this Tuesday is fine with y'all. Doing okay, staying away from the heat, keeping yourself hydrated, safe, protected by the deathly rays that are the suns. I definitely am trying my best to do that, and okay, it's kind of a bit of a sign of to be a bit stormy, although slowly dissipating. Although it said it was going to be a bit stormy later in towards the night, but we'll have to see. But yeah, overall you're fine. Because yeah, I tried my best. Again, sorry I had to delay for like another hour because I was like, okay, the setup is pretty fast. I did it like really quick, whatever, for War for Cybertron, because it is like a community effort that has been going on for like a few years now already. Like I think for like 3 years at the very least. I did the setup for like War for Cybertron. Could not make a multiplayer account, as you probably saw in my previous streams of the game. To get into the multiplayer, you first have to make an account. The process for the account making, so to speak, is just simple. You just have to register a username, then you have like an account made, probably using, I don't know, things integrated within Steam and anything like that for like credentials. But because, you know, there are no more servers, there is no way for, you know, to create a database and to, you know, store that information. So the community effort basically made a different kind of like key login to a different type of servers. To kind of jump there. I don't know, did the setup as per the guides. Could not get it to work. Just when I was trying to create the account, I got the same pop-up as before. There were no servers available for me to make an account, so I could not access the multiplayer section at all. I tried reinstalling the game, trying a fresh install, trying to do whatever I can. Just couldn't get it to work. Just I don't know what was the deal with it. So yeah, I was like, okay, fair enough. I can't do that one. Let me just jump into Fall of Cybertron, the sequel, see and make that one too working. Got the setup, did all the things. Then I think I hit an unexpected roadblock, because in that game, yeah, it has a matchmaking system similar to alongside making private lobbies. Thing is, as I was like searching for matches, because I was jumping to one to like see, I don't think there is enough people to like actually matchmake to like to jump into a game, because I think it has kind of similar issue as kind of Researchers of the Storm, where it automatically creates you a lobby for matchmaking and then brings together whatever players are around. But if there are no players, you're just gonna sit there in a lobby waiting for somebody to join. So yeah, I think that was the case. Who knows, maybe I did something wrong with that installing process as well. But there I was able to be in the multiplayer. I was able to actually jump into matchmaking. Just the matchmaking just simply creates a lobby, because that's how it always worked, even when the servers were online. And you just have to wait until people join in to start a game. So yeah, I couldn't do that game either, and that was kind of it. There was nothing else for me to do, because I was like, oh boy, I don't think I have something game related to have as kind of a coverage related to some Killing Games topic. Technically I do have, just in case I'm out of talking points. I have the Poker Night games, which apparently are still even though Telltale has resurfaced a while back, those games are still out of storefronts. They're no longer, you can no longer buy them. It might have something to do with IP licenses and things like that, because those were under like, because the Poker Night games basically had like multiple IPs within one game, and it might be related to that. Once Telltale resurfaced again, they just probably couldn't get hold of those IPs once more, so they just couldn't, or at the very least one of those IPs, or two, depending on the case, because technically Sam & Max is in both games, so if you lose, if they didn't have access to that IP, that basically already strikes both games out. In the other scenario is one of the other two IP licenses couldn't get it again. Two of the other IP licenses, because it has a few, you know. It has a Valve one for each game. In the first one is Team Fortress, and the second one is Portal. There's Borderlands. There's Venture Bros. There's Evil Dead. Forgot what else was. I forgot what was in Poker Night 1. I know there was like because I don't really know too well the properties in the first Poker Night. Let me check. Night. I know there was like the Lucha Libre dude, but I don't remember what was his deal. And also like another character that I know he's like he's quite a popular character within the online medium, but I've not been too familiar myself. So yeah. That was kind of it. But yeah, I couldn't get those, so unfortunately, it is what it is. I'll probably do. I might jump to one of them or something, but I'm not fully sure if I'm gonna jump into. I installed the sequel, Poker Night 2. That's my personal favorite out of the two. I don't know. I just love the quips a lot more, and it might be also because I'm a bit more familiar with some of the IPs there. Borderlands, Portal. At the time when I was playing the game, I wasn't into Venture Bros, but I got later down the line. I got into the show, into the animated series, and I've enjoyed it. So afterwards, yeah, I really enjoyed Brock, and to be fair, like his voice I recognize from so many places, general. But yeah, that was kind of it. So we'll see. I'll probably just yap for a while talking about like Stop Killing Games, and then I guess if we extend it for a bit too long, I might jump into something, do some other things in the meantime, and then deal with that. Not many things have surfaced around these past videos. There is a video that we are gonna check that actually released like an hour or so ago, if not even earlier. That we can check out by Ross, talking about some new options that have opened up to support the movement, which is actually really interesting. Like, yeah, an hour ago. So literally, as I was prepping for the stream, like this popped up. So I was like, okay, I guess I have something that I can vaguely talk about, even though it's a pretty short, like 10-minute video that we can do. Of course, I'm still gonna have a general discussion about the Stop Killing Games before that, just to kind of give you a bit of an introduction. Maybe we'll look through the website a bit, just to see some other things open up, just to kind of maybe you can look at the frequently asked questions. So some people, as it is the final push this week, like in less than like a few days from now, it's gonna end, because on the 31st of July it's the final day to sign the petition. Just to kind of clarify the air, and you can look through the frequently asked questions. That way everything is cleared up, and you can make a bit of an informed decision based on the website. There was like something else. I think like Cat Game made a statement in talking pro Stop Killing Games. So that's something worth looking at. Let me look for it. I have the link saved up. Well, I know there's some like other discussions that some people are trying to put alongside, that, you know. Up. I'm just quickly organizing a few things here, just if I have them. Funky. There. Go. Yeah, it's a short statement, but yeah, why not? Will work in our favor, and there was like another mention that I could probably discuss about it that could be related, although I'm not fully sure about it. It's a bit more legally out there and complicated. I'm still full on against it, and I feel like it's ridiculous, but still not fully sure how exactly to approach that one. But yeah, anyways, before we jump those discussions and generally speak about stop killing games, I do have like a quick little thing to say, you know, dealing with my quick little laundry list of things, and then we can fully focus on dealing with this and focus on the Stop Killing Games things. So first of all, more importantly, as you can probably see the progress bar and everything below with the coffee link, I'm been in a financial thingy situation that I need to have it fixed, and as fast as possible. I do have like a deadline around October for all of this, and all the amount is not really pressing. I just you know, I need to have some loans that are related to my PC that I'm currently using for streaming. As some of the components I just couldn't pay them myself, and it was necessary for me to get a new system as fast as possible, so I had to take a loan. Most of the money I paid it myself for, because this was like a 3-year like month bank you know, payment, like 3-year plan type of reimbursement. So a good chunk of it, like most of it has been just covered by me through my own expenses, but I got to a point where I have nowhere else from where to, you know, funnel the money right now. I don't really have a consistent income. Things are a bit on the unclear on my end at the moment, and even through streaming and all that, I don't necessarily get it at a consistent monthly basis. It's still a bit up there in the air, so I'm asking for a bit of support. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, you have to push and help me get this big amount by the end really quick, or like I don't know, the end of the month or anything. You know, as I said, I'm still on monthly plans, so as long as you can help me cover my monthly payments, which are like around 50 euros, then I'm in the clear. Like, there's nothing else that you need to help me out with. After that, I would be completely in the zone. So yeah, actually, one second. Hold up. I think I need to take a quick break. Something currently calling for me, and I'll be right back. I'll run a quick ad break as well, so that way when I come back, we can run a full hour without being interrupted. So I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. There's a thing that I have to deal with. Sorry about that. It should be fine now. But yeah, reverting back to what I was saying before. So, as I mentioned before, as you can see with the whole shebang of the coffee things and links, as I mentioned, they have a financial thing. If you can help me out, that'd be really I would appreciate it a lot. And you know, you can do so, you know, for the coffee. It mostly because, you know, I need this money covered, and that's a direct way of showing support me, where most of your support is gonna go towards me, with not with a minimum cut for the platform compared to other places. But I'm still encouraging you, if you prefer to do it that way through using Twitch integrated systems, as is the only other place I'm monetized, because I'm really close to a payout. And honestly, if I reach that payout next month on August, that will help me cover my remaining you know, my remaining loan, or most of the loan for that month. So that would also really helpful towards it, and then I wouldn't have too much else to pay on. So yeah, that's basically it. I just need to get out of the situation. Any money that I make from any other sources that come my way are gonna be added to the progress bar of this coffee goal. So even if it's not for a donation, or if somehow I got it through other means like Twitch or something, that's still gonna be counted. So I'm completely transparent with how much I still need. It's not gonna be something that, I don't know, I managed to make the payment some other way, but this goal progress is not gonna, it's gonna remain the same. So it's not misleading. This is literally the amount that I've paid, that has been covered so far and paid. Yeah, right now it's not really pressing, because I was able to cover through a generous donation. I was able to cover it for July, but August is coming up, because I always paid, the loan payments are always around the middle of the month. So I already have to start kind of building up for that one, because August is just around the corner. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm still pushing these. So, and as I said, I don't necessarily need you to help me out to like immediately reach this amount, this total amount that is there on the screen. Even like 50 euros worth of accumulated donations on a monthly basis is more than enough to help me out, as that will cover the loan for that specific month. But yeah, aside from that, from the coffee link, you get access to the vtuber sorcerer supplement. You get which is a small little preview of something that I'm working on for the Gestalt RPG system. So you can check it there. And additionally, from that, if you become a member, you can slowly become you can have access to some other benefits, which are gonna be a bit in the works. One of them is previews of work in progress projects. You currently have access to the Gestalt supplement that I'm working on, and it has a few extra things from the subclass that is really available to everyone. So a few more details there, and some spells and some other things that are gonna be added along the way. Both of these, the freely available one and the one on for the members, are on a pay what you want model. You can get them completely for free. But if you want to offer a donation or an additional donation in the case of the members, but it's not required, I'm not even asking you if you're already a member to do that. You just already supporting me on a monthly basis is more than enough. But if you want to do so, you have the options. So yeah, you have those options there as well for the members there. Aside from this document, you also will have in the future access to maybe some sneak peeks of things that I've done in the stream that I might not have shown on stream. You know, like for example, some of the TTRPG work that I will be doing in the future is not necessarily going to be fully visible on stream, or not always on view on stream. So you're going to get a sneak peek of whatever I worked on for that stream there, and also early access window to different sort of things that I might put on the storefront for coffee or from other places. Usually digital only products, like, you know, in most scenarios probably going to be other supplements. And if they're going to be under a price point, of course, if you are a member, you are going to get a discount for it. I'm going to take into account the membership, so you're not going to pay full price. Yeah, those are basically the things that I just needed to say, and kind of, you know, to quickly like jot out in my immediate, you know, shilling for the day, because I'm not gonna talk too much about it outside of that. But yeah, and that's kind of it. At this point now, I guess we can get into the general talking points, which it's gonna be interesting, because I guess this stream is just gonna be full ass improv. I have no idea what other things I'm gonna do along the way, because I just don't know what else to be doing. Because yeah, there's not a lot to cover. But I guess let's talk with the important part, the Stop Killing Games movement and initiative, because those are two separate things. First of all, to get a bit of an understanding from, at least from my words, what exactly is Stop Killing Games. It covers kind of a few problems. The first one is to put into the question the legality of game publishers, in some cases game studios, pushing video game licenses, the end user license agreements, that, you know, in many situations offer these kind of like harsh terms, let's call them nicely, where, you know, under certain circumstances they you know, under certain agreements, they can simply revoke access to and revoke your license, which means revoking full access to the game without offering you any reason or justification, and at any point in time. So there's not even a specified time frame for that, and they can just simply remove that, even if the game is still functional technically, and let's say you just bought it for one day, the next day they could revoke it if they feel like it, without much of a justification and reason. And even some more extreme situation, I even seen like EULAs that mention the destruction and removal of any evidence or any remnants of that game or digital product, even physical or digitally, completely from your ownership. That means deleting it from your systems, you know, destroying anything physical related to it, like CDs and any sort that are, if somehow they're still stocked on that, but I can't imagine how. So yeah, that is. Sorry, a yawn. A really strong yawn hit me. Sorry. But yeah, that is to put in the question, because under certain EU consumer protection laws, it's in a weirdly legally gray area where it's kinda not legal and probably not illegal, but it's kind of tending more to the, it's mostly not really legal, it's not really consumer friendly at the least terms and conditions and regulations that are currently, like, yeah, they are currently following whatever, you know, consumer regulations that are currently present within the EU, but that doesn't mean that those consumer regulations are good for this specific type of product, and they might need some rectifications or some more, or better definition, or to be better defined and better and well and more detailed and clarified in how exactly for these types of products, this or services, this situation could be handled. Because it's one of those things where, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to put this under the pretense that, okay, we are offering a service, a license that needs to be paid, well, under most laws, licenses need to have a predetermined you know, availability time. So it can't just be, oh yeah, it's an indefinite license, or not necessarily indefinite, but it's a license that can expire at an indefinite amount of time. That cannot be something, either it's indefinite or it's a perpetual license that is never expiring, or it's a license that has a clear defined amount of time of availability, either for some sort of subscription model or just simply on buying the product you're receiving an amount of time available. If you really want to push that, that's gonna be it, which I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna be really happy about it, of basically putting up a you know, putting forward what is their expected lifespan of the game, because that's kind of what it means, like putting a license, putting the terms of how long the license is. That means that you're basically saying to the publisher, tell us for how long are you willing to invest in these games, or what are your hopes and predictions of this game's success. Because obviously other publishers or at least investors wish to get some of their money back, and in some scenarios they make at the very least an estimate of, hey, we want this game to be at the very least available for X amount of time so we can rack in back our money and even get some return, profitable returns from it. So you're basically saying like, this is the window of success and that we're expecting, which in some scenarios may not necessarily be fun for the player base to realize that that's how little or what or big faith the investors are putting in this. Because in some cases it could be something ridiculous like, oh yeah, we are putting just 1 year of this license because we're not really we're just interested in just getting our money first, and then after that we're just gonna see from there, and kind of imply it's probably gonna show in some situations how investors are basically just caring about the quarterlies or the year turnarounds, and only after that will they make a decision when exactly if the game is just gonna keep their service active or not. So yeah, that's gonna be a bit revealing. If not that way, at the very least, then clarify what exactly are the terms of this product as a product, and how exactly the regulations for a digital video game product should be handled. Because as the entire transition from physical to completely online only and the digital marketplace, things have kind of been modeled around like what exactly do, because which is why the publishers have been able to take advantage of current regulations and current laws, because this medium has evolved from just being a very physical dependent format to now just being a completely online and digital marketplace. So, but the terms of buying and owning have not really changed since. So because of that, they were able to take advantage of certain most likely certain loopholes or certain scenarios. Yeah, that's kind of the first point. After this kind of lengthy and semi-tangential rant, first point to put into question the legality. Second one is to improve game preservation efforts by asking of publishers and studios to at the point when the game is gonna no longer be supported by official sources, by the developers and publishers, which is completely understandable. To be very clear, there is no demand by the movement for the studios and publishers to offer indefinite support, because we understand that they are a business first of all, and they are out there to also make money, profits and all that. So we understand that there will be a point where they would realistically have to shut down whatever in whatever aspects do they find the term of shutting down reasonable, be it 5 years, 10 years, or even longer, depending on the studios. Even though we've seen cases of certain studios mentioning that just server maintenance is insignificant when it comes to resources. I think like Guild Wars 2 even said that one of the reasons why Guild Wars, the developers of Guild Wars, even said that the reason why Guild Wars 1 is still active and still available and still playable for the online is simply because they said the cost of maintenance are insignificant to keep the servers up and running. Of course, the more complex the game gets, the costlier it gets, and Guild Wars 1 is maybe an exception of a product of its time where there was not as much complexity when it comes to their online infrastructure for that game. But still, there's even seen cases of the studios and publishers dedicated for a longer support than expected, than what would be seen as feasibly expected. But either way, that's still left up to the developer's decision. But the thing is, what the movement and initiative is asking is, once publisher ends support, that they remove whatever online dependencies they have in case of a single player experience that might be tied to some online connections, be it like something like DRM or some sort of like account servers or anything of the sort. Just let us still have access to the single player experience without having to be tied to some sort of online servers and protections that are no longer going to be available. And if it's a multiplayer experience, offer the consumers, the buyers, the minimum tools necessary for them to take the charge of hosting and maintaining those servers. You know, those base functionalities to make the to at the very least be in a playable state. Like, they're not even asking to have all their features. Like, monetization could be stripped completely by simply saying like, oh yeah, monetization is no longer going to be available, we're going to shut down the stores, but here are the tools that will allow you to play the game but without having access to the storefronts or whatever other platforms of the sort. Like, that's kind of what is asking. You know, it is also a push of, you know, in the efforts of improving game preservation, because being able to still be able to keep playing and keeping them active and alive will keep discussion and keep the accessibility to a game further on. And, you know, they could even enable other things that have been discussed by others, you know, things like the modding community or, you know, custom server communities or anything of the sort that would elevate and keep the IP and keep the not necessarily IP, but keep the game alive, and to some extent even the relevancy of that respective studio or publisher. Because hey, if the community is still active and still doing things, that means that in the circle of discussion, the game property, or, you know, or at least the studio connected to the game property, they will remain also within that circle of discussion and that circle of relevancy. So that is beneficial in the long term for a studio and game, especially if it has sequels. Like, even to this day, for example, the original Doom games, from, you know, Doom 1 and Doom 2 from you know, from the 90s, are still relevant right now and still have a vibrant community, because the modding scene is keeping it alive. Even in recent years, we've received new mods and new maps and new gameplay experiences within that game, even in recent years. Not something like, oh yeah, that's maybe something that was done in mid to late 2010s and that was it. No, still to this day, that community is alive and doing things, and it's keeping a game so old, like decades old at this point, irrelevant. Yeah, that's in the long term. It's also beneficial, aside from, you know, preserving the games and for, you know, for its culture and form and play experience. And finally, which is a point that at the very least I see it from my perspective, is the one of allowing the game industry and the video game medium to improve upon itself and to get better in the future. Because by still having access to older games, by still having access to games that would not be shut down, that would otherwise be shut down, and be able to experience them as best as to the possibilities that we can, that is a learning experience for future developers, for future studios, that they can take on and implement or avoid in their own products, depending on a case-by-case scenario. So it is important to learn from the winnings and failures of other studios to improve the medium and improve our own games. It's not fair to go under that kind of assumption, which is a bit elitist in my opinion, of everybody has to start from zero and has to suffer the same struggles that those in the past did. No, you should do the thing that the mentor does. Warn them, hey, these things are the things that we dealt with and you should not deal with it. Here are the teachings and experiences we learned from it and how you should avoid it and do something better of it instead of this. There might be concepts out there from certain video games that some studios are really interested in and they really enjoy and they want to bring their own spin to it, but better understand the game experience and the play experience and all that, you have to actually experience it yourself firsthand. There's so much a developer can glean from secondhand experiences, from some video archive or anything else of the sorts. And yes, developer to some extent should be able to analyze games even in that scenario, but certain aspects of how mechanics function and interact with each other, how exactly what dynamics develop from them, and what emotions those dynamics bring out, can only be experienced. Most of that can only be experienced firsthand by you playing the game. So it's important. I also consider this important by still having access to older games and not necessarily be tied to the possibility that at some point servers or functionalities or any other thing of the sort is deny access. Sorry, you don't hit me again. But yeah, if we avoid the concern of, you know, at some point being denied the access, it will help us improve. So yeah, at the very least, from what I see, there are kind of three main points. Improve consumer laws and make video games being more consumer friendly. Enhance, put more efforts in the game preservation movements, and as well as offer opportunities for the game industry and game media to get better by still having access and still being able to learn from past experiences. To me, these are like the big 3 points: better laws, game improve, better preservation efforts, and more opportunities for the studio, for the industry to learn and evolve, and innovate even. Yeah, these are like the 3 main points, in my opinion. So if these ring true to you and feel like their importance, then if you're a European citizen, I would recommend you go on and sign the European citizen petition. Unfortunately, only Europeans can do so at the moment. There might be some other efforts which we're gonna look into it and talk about it in a bit, as Ross has posted a video about it. But right now we're focusing on the current petition that it's about to end pretty soon. So how can you do that? There is access to a petition. Again, as I said, only European Union citizens. If you're not an European Union citizen, or you're from a different country and continent altogether that is out European Union member, then the best thing you can do is sharing around, keeping the conversation alive. Just keep talking about it, and who knows, maybe a friend of a friend of a friend is an European Union citizen that can sign and become aware of it and show support and push on. So yeah, how do you get access to the petition? On Twitch, there is a banner with the Stop Killing Games logo. If you go on that banner, that's going to send you directly to the website, and you get access to all the information about the initiative and movement of Stop Killing Games. You can go look there. And right below that banner, you have access to the hyperlink to the petitions website for the European Union's initiative, and also an additional link if you are a French citizen and you own the game The Crew. You can do like an additional effort of filing a complaint to the Consumer Protection Board in France, and basically kind of push on and put a bit of pressure specifically towards Ubisoft due to their practice of shutting down that the access for that game, which, hey, it's a different angle that keeps this conversation alive, which can help. More important is the initiative for EU citizens than this. So yeah, those are the first thing you can do to get access to them. If you are on YouTube, the description gives you all those free links that I just mentioned right below. And then an additional way to get access to a link is if you do the command !SKG, get access to them that way as well. And finally, if you scan the QR code that is going to be present on Steam's duration, that's also going to send you directly to the European Citizen Initiative. That one is the most important one, because the European market is a is a significant a significant portion of the overall video game market. And if changes and regulations are pushed forward here, there's a high likelihood that these changes and these shifts in how the games are managed and sustained are probably going to also be applied to in other countries as well. So it is important for this to be pushed forward for as long as possible. So far, as it was mentioned, the petition, the Citizens Initiative itself had a minimum requirement of 1 million signatures. That's the minimum necessary for it to reach the European Parliament and gain access to that. There's also like another like criteria that I think they had. They also had to have at least 1 million and meet the minimum threshold. Oh yeah, and also meet the minimum threshold of at least 7 member countries, which I'm pretty sure that has happened officially. It has happened basically way beyond that. I think like almost all countries have covered the threshold. Like there are like a few of them, like Malta, Luxembourg, and Cyprus. Only 3 countries have not reached the 100% threshold, which is different for each country based on their population and all that. So yeah, only 3 countries did it, and even those are like somewhere within like the minimum around like 50%. So even there, like half of the threshold has still signed. And at the very least, when it comes to like percentage wise, Finland has still crushed it with 595% of voting. But if we are talking number wise, because I'm pretty sure there's different countries with bigger numbers that have offered something. Let me see. Oh no, that's the threshold I was looking at. Is it Germany? Yeah, I think it's Germany. Yeah, it's Germany with over 300,000 signatures from them. And basically, somewhere around like 449% of the threshold. So yeah, a lot of countries hit that. So yeah. So that yeah, the thing is, those two requirements have been hit. But aside from that, there has also been a push, as you can probably see, or whatever you can see out of it. Unfortunately, that's the best I could have done for a graphic. And they pushed for like an additional extra goal of a total of 1.4 million signatures. So another like 400,000 addition, mostly to take into account the possibility of certain signatures to become invalidated simply due to human error. Be it they put their names wrong, introduce a wrong ID or something like that, or like or introduced it incorrectly in some form, like basically to take into account the possibilities of general like human error when the signatures were made. In the past, apparently there have been scenarios where even up to like 250, and that's like the worst case scenario of 250,000 signatures have been validated for petitions of similar sizes. So yeah, it's basically just to take into account that possibility. But we've also reached those goals. We are quite a ways over that. We are probably getting close to, at this point, 1,440,000 signatures pretty soon. We are a few thousand signatures away from that. But yeah, it's even though the target goals that have been set have been reached, it's still important to put your name out there, to make your voice heard, because the more voices speak out about this issue, the clearer it's gonna be for the European Parliament that this is serious issues that a lot of the citizens take 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 concern of, and by that they will approach it a lot more seriously with more scrutiny and take in more carefully the details, and also to kind of put away some other misunderstandings or misinformation. Through its name, the European Citizens Initiative, this is not something that it is pre-planned or something that has already figured out like an entire set of, I don't know, regulations or laws or solutions put in front. No, it's literally in its name. It's an initiative. It's this is under an official European Parliament forum. So like these are managed and hosted on official platforms that are in direct contact with European Parliament entities. So this petition will go directly to the important people that need to handle this issue. So it's not some petition.org thingy where you gather some signatures and then you send it to some public through some public channel of communication that everybody can have access to, and we hope for the best that somebody sees it and gets a response back. No, this is going through official channels that through official processes that will then gather a response back. And aside from that, because it's an initiative, it's there to gauge interest of the citizens concerned. That's the first plan. And even the way the forum is hosted, you can't even detail. Wouldn't even have the necessary way to detail everything about the initiative. You have like a limited amount of information that you can put down. You literally have like a word limit. Like, so even if they wanted to offer like solutions or like ways for it to be handled, they couldn't do it because of how the platform is handled, because at the end of the day, that's why it's done this way. So all the serious matters can then be handled with experts at the helm, in front of meetings, discussions. Like after this initiative pushes through, that's when the serious talks happen, and that's when decisions are made and experts are brought in from both fronts, and they can start having discussions, make compromises, and that sort of thing. And also another reason why it's kept a bit unspecified in solutions is because it's also an understanding that each studio might have their own infrastructures or have their own systems and methods and pipelines and work processes when it comes to how they handle these issues, or how they handle their online infrastructure, their online systems, or anything of the sorts, how they how their partnerships are handled with possibly third-party services or IPs. So because of that, they're not gonna, and that's another reason, because there could be studios out there that each of them does different things and have their inner workings a lot different from one another. So jumping at the assumption that, oh, this is the general consensus that, oh yeah, this is the common practice, these are the solutions to combat this specific practice, but then some studio is going to jump in and be like, no, that's not how we do these things, and we cannot comply to these methods because that's not how we work. The point of this movement is to also offer the flexibility and the leeway for studios to be compliant to whatever regulations are going to come out of this from demands and the issues that are raised by the initiative. So they're not going to ask them and I'm suspecting that that's kind of how the discussion hours is going to be formed. Like the European Parliament is not going to put them in the scenario where we figured out the fix, this is the fix that you need to do and you have to apply it. No, we like, these are our regulations, these are the outcomes we want to see you achieve and offer towards the consumers, and how you handle them for these requirements and regulations to be met is up to you. But again, deeper discussions and anything of the sorts is going to be made after the fact once we push through. But until then, we'll have to wait and see, which is, again, that's what make it very clear that even if it's maybe at points, some places it's a bit unclear, that's kind of the point. So that because the discussions are going to be done afterwards, and experts are going to be brought in, so it's not going to be just some people just tied with politics and just going to debate between each other. No, there's going to be individuals within the industry who are also going to talk about these issues and bring forth arguments, talking points, reasons why this should be done this way, reasons why this shouldn't be done this way, and figure out like some sort of compromises, from some sort of solutions. But yeah, overall, that's kind of the thing. That's kind of what needs. Man, it's still important. As I said before, the petition ends on the 31st of July, so we don't have a lot more days left. And yeah, as I said before, even though it's most likely gonna go through, I don't think it's gonna be worse than 250,000 votes invalidated, or if it's gonna be somewhere bigger than that, it's still within that general ballpark, worst case scenario. But that's still gonna leave us with somewhere around like 1.2 million signatures, so still quite above the threshold. So we kind of have it locked in. So there's no reason to believe that it's not gonna be moving here. But it's still important, you know, to make this to kind of hammer it home that hey, this is an issue that a lot of people are concerned about and needs to be handled. Then speak out. Do your due diligence and do the best you can to handle it. So yeah, I think that's generally the discussion. Wait, let me now figure something out. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, I was just handling, so I'm also gonna pop to this screen. First, I would like to just talk about because I saw this and I really liked it. Like, you know, the Cat Games also like made a statement. You know, we are committed to make a great experience. We are committed to great experiences, no matter how long it's been since a game's release. Every player deserves lasting access to what they paid for. Learn more about Stop Killing Games initiative and share your thoughts. But you know, it's really cool that they've done that. And for those who do not know what Cat Games is about, I'm sure they don't have a link here, but you can already like see like Cat Games have, you know, are the developers of the recent Rogue Trader Warhammer 40k game, as well as the two Pathfinder games, the Kingmaker and Wrath of Righteous, if I remember correctly. So yeah, a sizable development team. So it's and studio. So you know, it's not just small indies or, you know, small devs. Like, it kind of shows like, hey, even if bigger studios who might have within their staff people with a lot of experience when it comes to like the back end and tech side of development that understand these efforts, can tell you, be like, no, it is, these efforts can be achievable, so they should be done. So again, the more people speak out, which by the way, it's not only Hellcat game, we've even had I think officially 3 representatives of the EU Parliament who also spoke out in support, or like 3 or 4, and one of them, and only one of them from my understanding, is one of the 14 vice presidents of the European Parliament. So that's a big thing. Like, it's already been seen, and all of them have spoken in support of this movement, and are probably prepared to start, you know, making the efforts for this to kind of go through and start the motions to handle newer regulations and how this can be done. Yeah, there's also the I think the game writer that made a quick post about it. Pathfinder Warhammer CRPG Studio declares support for Stop Killing Games. Every player deserves lasting access to what they've paid for. We're closing in on the final days of the Stop Killing Games EU petition with 1.4 million signatures in tow. Your petition drives of Stop Killing Games campaign is entering its final week, and with 1.4 signature in tow, the game industry is taking notice. At least one notable studio is offering a stamp of approval to the movement, as the CRPG developer Owlcat Games is encouraging players to show their support. We're committed to great experiences, no matter how long it's been since a game's release. Owlcat says in a post on Blue Sky, sharing a link to Stop Killing Games' website. Every player deserves lasting access to what they paid for. Learn more about Stop Killing Games initiative and share your thoughts. Owlcat is known for the Pathfinder RPG Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous, okay, so I remember correctly, as well as Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. These titles are already offline games available on DRM free storefronts, which I'm pretty sure it's called GOG, as well, so they wouldn't be affected by the Stop Killing Games initiative regardless. But it's notable to see established studios throw in the support behind the movement. So, you know, it's kind of shows that even if big games kind of talk about it like, hey, this can be done. Stop Killing Games got underway in 2024 in the wake of Ubisoft's shutdown of its always online racing game, The Crew. Despite the game's single-player campaign, the server shutdown meant it was completely unplayable, even for those who'd previously purchased it. The campaign aims to lobby legislators around the world to force publishers to implement end-of-life plans for games to make sure they remain accessible to the players. Probably should have made it clearer that similar games to be released in the future, because this movement is not retroactive in any way. They're not going to demand any existing games or soon-to-be released games to apply to these regulations. The biggest branch of Stop Killing Games is now an EU citizens initiative that has garnered 1.4 million signatures, enough to prompt a process that involves a hearing with the European Parliament and the potential recommendation of new laws from the European Commission. This process will get underway once the petition deadline runs out on July 31st. Yep. Also, Stop Killing Games accused of systematic concealment of financial contribution because its figurehead spent too many hours volunteering to promote the campaign. Oh yeah, you volunteer for so many hours, you can't be a volunteer. Definitely no. It cannot be that way. Which was a ridiculous kind of claim. I'll be fair. But yeah, important, good things. And yeah, once again here to probably see it a bit more clearly than in my graphic, is literally just the hyperlink taken from the website, and I just cropped it in chroma key. Does the other stuff. We are at a pretty hefty number. Actually, let me do a refresh. If oh yeah, we're actually getting close to 1,440,000. Not sure if we're gonna get to 1.5 million, because we're still a bit of a ways. Like, we're pretty close to getting to the deadline, and it's definitely so slowed down the past few days. But at the very least, hey, we've reached the target goals. Now it's just a thing of seeing what happens afterwards, which is gonna be a bit interesting. But still, we have a few more things to discuss, as there has been apparently some development. Stop Killing Games, new options available, get law passed. So I'm guessing with there are some talkbacks, because literally this released 2 hours ago, like right as I was prepping for streaming. I was like, oh, I guess there is a talking point we can have. So let's see what it's about. And and I paused at such a good fucking frame, I swear. Let me see. Good. Okay, actually, I think I had to put audio here, so then audio.
But I have big news on the Stop Killing Games campaign. Hey everyone, I'm surprised how often I'm saying this these days, but I have big news on the Stop Killing Games campaign. This is not an exaggeration. We have a new option that could get new law introduced to start protecting games you've already paid for. Though it's only for Europeans. Again.
Hey.
Sorry, what can I say? Europeans seem to have all the options on consumer rights.
Hey.
I'll cut to the chase.
What else?
The Digital Fairness Act in the EU has opened up for public commentary. Now, the Digital Fairness Act currently does not cover the problem of games being destroyed, but it covers a few issues adjacent to it. I'll get to them in a minute. So the strategy here...
Yeah, because we have there's the Digital Fairness Act, and I think it's already been kind of put into upfront with this specific discussion. I think at least some of the EU Parliament members kind of mentioned that it would go against the efforts of the Digital Fairness Act, and I think as Ross mentioned right now, there's no actual efforts or like legislations or laws under that that apply specifically to video games. So definitely there must be something there that can be done.
Which has been suggested by the BEUC and some political insiders I've talked to, is to politely suggest, hey, maybe the Digital Fairness Act could swing a little to the left and protect video games while it's at it. As of the time of me recording this, there are 17 comments on its page.
Ooh.
So if we had, say, a few thousand polite suggestions to include protecting video games from being destroyed, that might get the EU's attention. From everything I've heard, this strategy has a real chance of working. I would not call this a long shot. I would say it's another one with maybe coin toss odds of being successful. And best of all, this is an additional option on top of everything else we've been doing. So the Consumer Protection Agency investigations and
best chance without the initiative. Yeah, it was still a decision on the legality of the game destruction by the DGCCRF. I think it's in France, using the crew as a test case. A decision on the legality of game destruction from the Verbrochen Trail, using the crew as a test case, which is I think from Germany. A decision from the legality of game destruction from ACC, using the crew as a test, which is I think that's for the Aussie out there. Possible help from the BUC, using the issue for the EU Commission, and possible help from the UFFC in France, which is the current effort that you can do by sending a complaint to the Consumer Protection Board or something of the sorts in France for the cruise shutdown.
Multiple countries? Still happening. The European Citizens Initiative? Still happening. Yeah. Though seriously, hurry up if you haven't signed it and you're eligible. It ends in just a couple days. So, let's go overkill and open up this new option. Though, again, it's only for Europeans. Sorry.
Hey.
But more people can participate in this than the Citizens Initiative. For example, some European countries aren't part of the EU, but they're EU adjacent. Like they'll share some policies with the EU or are actively trying to join it. So this is for all EU citizens, but if you're a citizen of Norway, Iceland, Turkey, or countries that are EU-ish, I've been told it's okay if you want to go and leave a comment on this also. Unfortunately, due to Brexit, that does not mean the UK. So UK commentary isn't going to help here. Sorry. So, what should you say? Well, that's up to you. This isn't meant to be a template letter. In fact, if everybody writes the same thing, that could get flagged as spam. Yeah. So you really do have to put this in your own words.
Yeah.
However, I've been given some guidelines. First, be polite.
Yeah,
the EU is under no obligation to add our issue to the Digital Fairness Act. This is us making a request. So if you grouch at them, they'll probably ignore you. Second, ask if they can add protections against video games being destroyed that have already been sold to customers. If you have a personal experience with this, that's even better. If there was a game you liked that was destroyed, or if you're worried about a current game being destroyed due to it being online only with no end-of-life plan, you can tell them. Or you could bring up how hundreds of games have been destroyed already, and hundreds more are at risk of being destroyed. There's been a community-made index of them here if you want to take a look. And of course, feel free to mention that the Citizens Initiative already has over 1 million EU citizens expressing support for protecting video games from being destroyed. That might give this a little more weight. Maybe avoid URLs though, since that might trigger spam filtering.
Okay.
You can just leave a sentence or two, or you can write a short essay. You have up to 4,000 characters to work with.
Oh.
Now, you do have to register in order to give a comment, but they give a few options here. Electronic ID, even Facebook and Google. Huh. Also, select EU citizen or non-EU citizen if you're Norwegian or something. Do not select consumer organization. Stop Killing Games is not an official organization. It's just a grassroots movement. Anyway, if you leave a comment on this, you could be opening up a whole new avenue to protect games. Let's make the topic of game destruction impossible for the EU to ignore. The whole world has been ignoring this problem for 15 or so years, so we're making up for lost time here.
Yeah.
Speaking of time, being destroyed to port here, electronic or something. Destruction impossible for the EU to ignore.
Yeah, basically the logic is pester them until they like giving like, okay, fine, we'll listen, but politely pester, like just again politely pestering people until they're like, okay, fine, let's just hear you out, just leave us alone.
The whole world has been ignoring this problem for 15 or so years, so we're making up for lost time here.
Just in case
Speaking
it's too
of
loud.
time, some good news. Unlike the European Citizens Initiative, which ends in a couple days, this is open until October 9th. So if you're watching this late, you can still leave a comment and help protect games.
Okay.
In fact, I have no idea if the EU's website can handle a flood of people or not. So on the off chance it goes down, just come back later. So that's the main news. You can stop watching here if you want. But some of you may be wondering, what is the Digital Fairness Act? And why is this a good option for protecting games? A very relevant question. Well, the Digital Fairness Act is a kind of hodgepodge of protections the EU is trying to push to rein in some bad practices occurring in the digital space. The big ones they mention are dark patterns in online interfaces, which is kind of weaponizing the GUI to do things customers don't want, addictive design of digital services that pushes users to spend more money,
gambling-like features.
Look at that! Gambling-like features in video games.
Yeah.
See, this is what I mean.
Box mechanics.
That's not the issue of
Prize
Stop Killing Games,
actually.
but it's totally in the same neighborhood. Personalized targeting. Like if they were to push gambling ads on someone who's a gambling addict. I imagine something like that. Making it hard to unsubscribe from digital subscriptions, and problematic commercial practices of social media influencers. So what we're trying to do is add a number 6 here. Publishers permanently disabling video games they have already sold. I'm sure they'll word it differently, but you get the idea. We're trying to invite ourselves to the party here. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and that's, whoa, 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 Ross. I'm someone who thinks we shouldn't have a lot of government interference. And this looks like a lot of government interference. I don't want...
Well, without a government interference, a lot of the practice that have been done like in years past of having hard methods of doing of removing subscriptions, the whole thing with the essential cookies and non-essentials, it's again it was an effort done also for the Digital Fairness Act of not having all your data sent and tracked and collected by a ton of storefronts or companies or entities that you would have not been approved of. Of course, many other features like how you have to have a lot of transparency with anything that has gambling-like features. Think of it like gacha games, loot boxes, anything of the sort. The reason why you see percentage drops, like details and descriptions, it's because of these fairness acts. Because literally they have to disclose what are the odd chances and what are the systems and rules behind your gambling system. Because as long as real money gets funneled or can get through some sort of multi-step process into that system, then that's a gambling system, no matter how many extra steps of different types of currency you do. For example, how gacha games do it, and some other exploitative of that's also like a gambling or like behavior psychology trick of it's removing the understanding of real value or how much money you're actually spending by putting this by transferring this concept of premium currency to in-game currency from money. Gachas do it kind of like in a four-way step, because you put money, you get premium currency, and from premium currency then you then alter it to a different type of currency, and that currency will allow you to do the gachas. Although the premium currency to the gacha currency is a one-to-one transition, so it's basically kind of like a secondary step, but it's basically it tells you the same thing. But still, that is a practice of that sort. What else I think was mentioned there? Yeah, personalized targeting, so personalized ads at the very least with a better disclosure and how that is done. Yeah, dark patterns in online interfaces by putting unnecessary pressure on customers through false urgency claims. These are usually done, I think, through more like malicious or like some sort of like malicious websites or anything of the sort. I think I've been burned once by trying to unsubscribe to a thing, and somehow my bank account got connected to like some other bullshit that literally did like a money transfer. I'm like, you motherfucker. Yeah, I don't know, sign up to some weird ass additional subscription, and I was like, oh, you motherfucker, you tricked me. Because it made it so annoying to try to remove myself from the subscription, and I just couldn't figure it out. But yeah, problematic commercial practices of social media influences. Basically the disclosure of, hey, this is a paid ad, this is not a paid ad, sort of thing. So yeah, these are important things, and these actually have improved how, you know, we perceive a lot of the content within the online medium, and have better transparency. And you know, we have now practices that are not as predatory as they were before, or even they have been completely removed.
We're trying. Whoa, Ross. I'm someone who thinks we shouldn't have a lot of government interference.
And
this looks like a lot of government interference. I don't want games being destroyed, but I don't trust the EU not to go too far on this other stuff. They could screw it all up. Well, guess what? You could be completely right, and I'm not trying to tell you otherwise. Stop Killing Games is single issue. We are only trying to stop publishers from destroying video games you paid for. That's it. If we get that, then it's mission accomplished. All of this other stuff here is outside of our scope. So if you have strong opinions and all this other stuff, feel free to tell that to the EU also. See, the thing to realize is this stuff here is already set to happen. We had nothing to do with any of these proposals. But if there's a chance we can piggyback our issue onto legislation that's already happening with or without us, oh yeah, we'll take it. I mean, we're trying to keep Stop Killing Games contained to just the core issue. But with the industry lobbying against us and taking a pot shot at us behind the scenes, we'll take almost any help we can get. Anyway, I want to end this saying concern for government overreach is a valid concern, but only up to a point. For example, the issues in the Digital Fairness Act sound like good practices to rein in, but I could also imagine scenarios where that backfires. But saying that about Stop Killing Games has always rung hollow to me. Because I think the worst possible thing that can happen to gaming is games you like or want to play being destroyed forever. Well, that's already happened to the tune of hundreds of titles, and the industry is promising to put resources into killing many, many more. I mean, live service games don't have to be synonymous with titles that are destroyed forever, but that's what the industry does the vast majority of the time. Now, of course, gaming could get worse than it is now, but I don't think it could be on a worse trajectory. I brought this up before, but I'll never let my audience forget it. If you want to know what the video game industry as a whole wants for us in the future, look no further than the original Xbox One reveal. Some highlights of that were no game sharing, needing to connect to the publisher every 24 hours or all your games would stop working, having every game you own on the platform be at risk of being completely destroyed when support ends, even if you have physical copies, and having a mandatory surveillance camera that could detect biometric data like facial expressions or heart rate, and would upload that data to the publisher. Now, they ended up backing off of some of that due to competition, but the industry tipped its hand there. This is the trajectory we're currently on. It's just slower now. It's the whole boiling frog metaphor. Microsoft's mistake was they turned the heat up too fast. And it's not just them. Stadia had streaming-only exclusives, How do you get less ownership than that?
And when it shut down,
Ubisoft has its infamous
good
quote
luck,
about
nothing
players needing to
accessible
get used
anymore.
to not owning their games. And Blizzard killed a game they sold over 50 million copies of, which made them billions of dollars, and they kept everyone's money. So they were...
Well, not Blizzard, Activision. Yeah, it's Activision Blizzard, but it's, you know, it's Bobby's ship, not necessarily Blizzard's ship.
Rewarded for that. And that's the path we're on right now without regulation on this issue. So if we don't get regulation, the industry is promising to kill more of our games. But if the regulation backfires, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? The industry will still kill our games? So yeah, I'm not scared of the government making gaming worse than this. What the industry wants here already scares me more. All right, that's it. Last call to go sign the EU initiative and first call to go comment on the Digital Fairness Act. Let's get it done.
Hey, pretty cool. Feedback. Let's be careful. Hopefully, I mean, it is on a public kind of forum. I'm guessing, you know, I think they're done. All feedback, yeah, that can be done anonymously. All feedback statistics, already 1,000 of them. Damn, let me close. Some have names, but mostly a few of them anonymously. Not gonna go through them because I'm not out here to dox people. So yeah. Okay, yeah, until October 9th. This was, already started a few days ago, almost a week ago. Okay. Unfair commercial practices to dark patterns, misleading marketing by influences, addictive design, well, such as. So this is basically, yeah, as I said, it's something we can piggyback off. Maybe to some extent, they could be vaguely related, depending on you know, unfair commercial practices related. Not really dark patterns, but at the very least they are unfair commercial practices to some extent. So yeah, I guess another thing for people to do, but this is for, like, and from my understanding is European citizens in general, like across, not just European Union members, with the exception of the UK, I guess. Sorry, Brits, I'm not necessarily saying it there, you did it with your own hand, but it is unfortunate. So yeah, act feedback. Do it this way. Here, so you have access to it. Yeah, this is a bit more open-ended, and it makes sense, as you know, Ross said, that there shouldn't be any patterns because it can be flagged as spam, or you know, it can also be flagged as there could be some underhanded intent or. And so yeah, they have to look as they have to be genuine comments, you know, genuine replies by us as citizens. Yeah, maybe this is not gonna have the same level of push. Maybe as I'm suspecting the this initiative, because I'm not sure how many people want to put themselves out there with their own words. Because this is like an extra. This is like a higher effort compared to just simply putting a name out there and agreeing to signing something. Because you know, you have to like full on like put in the effort to write. I am going to do this. I hope I can make it succinctly in 4,000 words. I am the type to kind of, I either write extremely succinct, like in like one sentence type of thing where I say something, or I just start ranting and ranting and ranting in many words. Although 4,000 words, that's quite a lot. So I think I should be fine, because I have a few things that I can mention. But yeah, Ross mentioned a few things pretty well. You know, talking about like things that how you've been affected, games that are about to shut down, games you fear that are gonna be shut down. Maybe mention some already existing issues and practices and how these things are currently handling. Yeah, even though I mentioned that, you know, most likely cannot link things, as it's gonna be seen as probably gonna be detected as spam. But yeah, overall, pretty well. We can basically have access now to, you know, something else that we can do. We already have, like, you know, quite a lot of them have been accumulated. The commission adoption is planned for like third quarter of 2026. Interesting. So it still has it's still a bit in the making. So there is time for us, you know, with offering this feedback. They also have time to kind of put it, you know, put it in their own words and put it in their own like legislation and wording. But yeah, also to kind of get an idea, like when I said like the threshold, because yeah, the petition needed to have 7 of these listed countries to reach the 100% threshold, which means these amounts of signatures depending on countries, which I think they are determined based on the country's overall population or something of the sorts. So yeah, as you can probably see, there are quite a few that have reached way over 100%. Or, you know, Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, like all, like Cyprus is one of the few ones, and still it's over like 50% of the votes already received. You can see like quite a few other big countries. Luxembourg is another one that hasn't reached, but still quite a high percentage, even so. And even Malta, like none of them like under 50. So, and the rest are like under like really big numbers and way above 100%. I'm not even sure like what is the smallest, you know, percentile threshold, past threshold. Like I see 121 for Bulgaria. Yeah, 121 for Bulgaria. I think it's the country with the smallest percentage that is past the threshold. Still with quite a significant. To be fair, Germany has carried when it comes to actual number of signatures, while when it comes to, but in actual effort of percentile, like Finland, which they barely had to, you know, they barely had to do anything, and still they fucking crushed it. So respect to the Finns out there. But yeah, Germany, France, I think those are kind of the big players. Poland as well, which really surprised. Spain with over 100,000 signatures. So yeah, there've been some countries who've done a huge effort to cover the necessary numbers. But overall, it was a group effort. But at the very least, with the Digital Fairness Act, this opens up to at least a few more European citizens that are not just union members. So, you know, if you are from some of the northern countries, maybe even, as I was mentioned, even Turkey as well. I'm guessing most of the non-member countries can participate in this. Or countries that are about to be in the process, like Ukraine, Moldova, I think Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, is in the process as well. Can already those I'm pretty sure they can have a big talking point about it. But yeah, another thing for you all to do and take a part in, but I think it's gonna be important. But yeah, kind of, again, because I'm a bit out of talking points. Actually, there was one. Let me. There was a talking point, but I'm not, which could be related, but it's a bit more complicated. Also done by shown by Ross, mentioned by Ross. I've seen, I've been asked about the Steam H censorship situation. The company removes a bot game from customer without no notice, plus a way to back it up. That's exactly the situation that will be covered. Stop Killing Games. Stop Killing Games would not stop the listing though. That's 1,000% harder legally. Yeah, this is talking about the other kind of current thing that has been happening with payment processors, basically a Visa and MasterCard, basically putting a really hard requirements now under not safe for work content, specifically, or like adult content. The biggest ones that have been hit and have had a big discussion within the social medias is Fansly, the not safe for work kind of platform, that streaming-ish platform where you can do not safe for work type of content, where even within the VTubing community, it's a big part of it for the YouTubers out there. And yeah, they put some like wild claims. Let me see if I can find the yeah, which can be connected, because also video games like Steam already has removed a lot of games that would probably fit within those issues with the payment processor. So put it this way, I brought Fansly on Twitch. I think I can find it. Right. I think I've seen some video highlighting it. Was it buff? New local laws were temporarily restricting access. What the? Wait, huh? Hold up. Like, I'm trying to look at the media tab because I was trying to look for the screenshot. I think I'm pretty sure like some other creators have posted it. And I looked at the Not Safe for Work tab and I see a lot of media tabs, like, to be fair, I'm looking on the server tab because I was looking at the Not Safe for Work alt account because I was thinking that I might have posted something about it there. Is it related? Because I know furries are like one of the big things pushed under that Fansly. Is it related to the Fansly? It just... Wait, due to local laws, we're temporarily restricting access to this content until X estimates your age? Wait a minute! Is fucking Twitter thinking I'm not of adult age? How the Hold up! For user privacy completely... Created account creation date. An account was created in 2012 or earlier. Fuck off. What do you, fuck, man, I ain't putting fucking Twitter. I ain't giving my ID verification to fucking Twitter. Oh no, that's for Twitter Premium. What the fuck? Wait a minute. How do I fucking... Hold up. Hey, hold up now. Now actually I've realized an issue. How do I... How do I get my age verified, or my account age verified on Twitter now? Hold up. Okay, this is an issue that I have to figure out like a post stream, but this is just something I've now noticed that is happening out there. I'm like, huh? What do you mean this is a thing that I have to deal with? Oh, I'm pretty sure it's related to the you see, sure, was somewhere out there, the guideline. Fuck. I'm not sure exactly where it is sending because I'm not a fan of you. Yeah. Exactly, I could find the terms. Oh, there we go. Take the... Boom. So, new policies. These are policies added by Fansly. So AI-generated content users cannot directly interact with AI like chatbots or image generators that respond to user prompts. Creators may still use AI tools themselves to create content as long as users aren't directly engaging with the AIs and all standard content and consent documentation requirements are met. Okay-ish, fine. Like I'm not bad with it. This one is an okay one, I guess. Yeah, like overall, don't create weird AI sex bots like fucking Twitter did it. That with their grog waifu, really weird. Alcohol and intoxicating substances, in addition to intoxicants and illegal drugs, any called adult content featuring alcohol, the cannabis or other intoxicating substances, regardless of local legality, is now prohibited due to consent requirements. It's a weird thing considering that technically by... I'm not sure exactly how Fansly works when it comes to like consent requirements on interacting in the platform, but I feel like if you're just making content that has talking points, especially if we're talking about like substances that across certain places it is legal, or at the very least alcohol, because you are on an adult platform, so at the very least alcohol could be a mention within legal terms, but I'm guessing it's something related to being under the influence and not really having forms of consent or encouraging that sort of behaviors, because that's kind of where this entire new policy is kind of like pushing towards. Social media account sales, getting access to Snapchat or other social media platforms is now, yeah, that is wait, selling access to Snapchat or other social platforms is now prohibited. It violates their terms of service. Okay, so I'm guessing now you cannot have under subscription benefits, I'm guessing, access to I don't know, like exclusive platforms or anything like that, if the terms of service of that platform do not allow it. But now here comes the interesting part, the policy clarification. Anthropomorphic content. Our payment processor partners classify some anthropomorphic content as simulated bestiality, as general guidelines. Kemonomimi, human-like characters with animal ears and tails, is permitted, but full personas, kimono, and scaly content are prohibited in adult contexts, which is really weird because it's still adults consenting. It's still under the same pretense of consent, and also to understand where I think they put a real like weird kind of bar where they kind of are drawing the line, like, yeah, ears and tails are okay, even though I think I've seen some posts where there was kind of like push back and forth of, is it okay, is it not okay if it just has ears and tails. But a thing that I've seen that I think some customer services replies received is, if the model or design shows animalistic limbs, so if you have like paws or claws, like anthropomorphic paws and claws, but still the rest of you is still humanoid, that still is under this restriction. So yes, you are technically, that's it, this is your limitation, ears and tails. If you start extending to limbs, even if it's just the extreme extremities of your limbs, that's still a no-no, which is really weird. Hypnosis, mind control. This prohibition includes also synonymous terms: mesmerize, mindfuck, mind control, hypno, regardless of context. Again, kind of weird considering that it's done under consent scenarios. I can get it that some people may not be into it because it kind of removes agency, but some people are again into that, of losing that agency. Everybody has their own thing. Wrestling content. Professional studio-produced adult wrestling is permitted. Amateur or party wrestling content is prohibited, and it may be interpreted as non-consensual activity. Even when consensual, even when consensual content that simulates a forced struggle or non-consent violates our policies, which is really weird because I was like, it may be interpreted as consensual activity even when consensual. Like, even if we 100% clarify this content is consensual, you're still gonna be like, no, it's bad. And also, like, professional studio produced adult wrestling. So, like, what if only a big wig studio decides to put a Fansly account? That's the only time you're gonna allow it. How exactly you're gonna determine that? Guessing what, you're going to go through some sort of like verification process or like a background check. Again, really weird. Public spaces and recording locations, sexual activities is prohibited in all public spaces. Nudity is prohibited in public spaces where it's not legally permitted. Both nudity and sexual activity are prohibited on the third party private property without the owner permission or in any location visible to the public. I mean, I know there's some sort of like, you know, aspects of some people being into it. I forgot exactly the term for it. I don't know. I'm guessing this is not to not encourage people to be too out there in public scenarios where it would be too deviant. But again, to me, these 3 points are a bit weird, and this one as well, because in the scenarios where, again, you're on a platform where everybody consents to these and understands that these are not done under any sort of, because this one is also has the same implications like here, where even if it's just in mention, it's still a no-no. Like, even if the subject of alcohol, like for example, let's say roleplay content where you're not actually drinking but there's the roleplay act of drinking, it's still prohibited. So that's kind of weird again. And so yeah, but this heavy push has been done because of the payment processors, and a lot of these terms, at the very least, definitely in these sections, anthropomorphic, hypnosis, not sure how wrestling, but I'm guessing these two at the very least, and maybe I'm not sure if this one, but at the very least these two have made it where a lot of content has been removed. Even though I understand that, I would say to some extent some games are, a lot of the, from my experience and from what I've seen of some of it, not safe for a lot of not safe for work games, from my creative perspective, are a bit trashy. Mostly because, hear me out, I'm all about it. Fucking do it. Yes, I feel I'm of the opinion that it has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of creativity that can be done there, and can be achieved. And a lot of games, I feel like, undermine the potential of it because it's an interactive medium and you can do a lot, and it can still be a game experience while at the same time also be, you know, an adult experience alongside it. So, and I've seen that, you know, at the very least, the mass market or like the wider market of the not safe for work games is just a thinly veiled kind of wrapped around game around the concept of, you know, whatever content, like I don't know, adult content you want to create, in most scenarios being some sort of visual novel like type of content where it's just mostly just a minimal like interactivity wrapped around the idea that you're just watching animations or like 2D scenes or anything of the sorts of certain sexual or not safe for work acts, which to me that's thin, that's very vague. But I've seen in recent, I think like Flipwitch, I think it's called Flipwitch, or if I'm correct, which is a 2D platformer game, action platformer that actually has a lot of like an awesome, and I've seen a bit of it, and honestly I was actually quite surprised at how well it's done. And actually it looks like it actually, from what it's been presented, it's presented as also a proper game, but with safe for work, not safe for work themes around it. So that's kind of where I'm pushing at. Like, yeah, do that kind of thing. You should do it. I feel like there's a lot of potential, but actually make an experience out of it, not just a thinly veiled game around the act of you know. Even things like, even though Honey Pop has done it a bit better, I guess, because I think they were kind of like a bit out there. I think not necessarily, I'm not sure if they were like trendsetters or anything of the sort, because I don't fully know the not safe for work market at the very least, not at that time. But at the very least, they were the ones that definitely put it out there. This kind of a bit more extra interactivity, because yeah, it was a match-free game overall, but it had a bit of that kind of visual novel of kind of dating game aspect. So you had a bit there to do, and it made some interesting things and choices, and interconnected how the match 3 works. But you know, go beyond that, because I've seen a lot of it, like a lot of safe for work games which are basically just puzzle games where, oh yeah, you do the puzzle game and to see the nude character, or you do some match 3 game to just make it nude, or some other things like that. That's, I don't know, to me that's what I like to call, or what I've been at least what I've been taught as a first level consciousness. Basically, the first ideas that come to your head, and usually those first ones are never the good ones. I always, yes, yeah, whenever you are brainstorming and like creating a creative concept, like, yeah, write some ideas down. The first ones that come to mind, those are the first ones that you're gonna put aside, because those are like the first level consciousness. Those are the first things that come to mind, and then try to dig deeper than that. And like, okay, these are the first ideas. These are like the first things that everybody, most likely everyone, is gonna think about. Look for something deeper than that. And because of that, I think that's a lot of potential, which is why I think it's definitely an issue, and it's definitely something that, to some extent, it's related to Stop Killing Games, at the least in the sense of, you know, putting payment processors to remove access to games that have already been available to the market, as well. But at the same time, so yeah, it's important, and I still have the opinion, like, no matter how trashy they are, like, all whatever opinions I might have over some, that doesn't mean that it deserves to be removed. Like, whatever, it's part of the market. Let them be. Some people might have a kick out of it, whatever. Whether it's a one-time thing or a few minutes things, depending, and then, you know, be done with their day. I don't think it's deserving, and it is a bit more complicated, yes, because as I mentioned here, delisting when it comes on a legal sense, it's I think it's a bit more convoluted. I'm not sure exactly I'm not sure exactly what can be done there. Like, on the storefront side of things, yes. On actually still having access to the game in your library, as it mentioned here, it's still weird. Like, yeah, they still have to do the usual 30-day notice, provided some means for you to download it and back it up so you could continue running it indefinitely. It's there's still some issues here. Like, there are some solutions at the very least that can be done. Like, I think Ross mentioned a good option. Like, yeah, you get a 30-day notice that this game is going to be delisted. You're going to be given a method how you can download and back up the game so we don't lose access to it. But Stop Killing Games will never will not necessarily protect the aspect of delisting. Like, for those, like, Stop Killing Games, again, it's for the first and foremost effort is for those who bought the game. These are consumer protections for those who own a game or who already made a money exchange for a game. Like, the effort, the legalities of just generally delisting something, it's a lot more complicated. I'm not sure how this is from my perspective. I'm not talking about it legally, just because of, but I'm just, you know, tying it because, again, politics sometimes are tied to these things. Because this is talking about, like, adult content and things of that nature, I feel like it's gonna be a really heavy topic to kind of put forward out there for legislators and to push it into a spin that it's positive. I feel some people like try to make some movements or try to figure out some ways in a similar way to kind of how Stop Killing Games is doing their own thing. And I encourage for people to find solutions. Like, yes, this is just probably my pessimistic or realistic perspective of this. Probably at the very least in official spaces, a lot of politicians are probably going to just stand back out of this because of being related to adult content, and because of these terms that push to some heavy taboo concepts. I feel like it's gonna be a harder case to argue. I'm not saying that it's not worth doing it, but it's definitely gonna be a harder case to argue. And yeah, unfortunately, a lot of games, at the very least, have been delisted. I'm not sure under what claims, but I'm suspecting a lot of games that somehow are probably within these two sections have been removed. So yeah, I'll have to see. We'll have to see about it. But it definitely games are also affected by this, and I'm not sure exactly what can be done. I have no idea in this scenario, and it still sucks. It still does, and honestly, as I said, it's kind of sucky, and I'm also against it. Like, fuck's sake, you know, sex work is actual work. Like, you know, I'm fully in agreeing with everybody doing, like, hey, do your thing. Get your money, no matter how you get it. Especially if you enjoy doing this kind of things. There are people out there who just enjoy presenting themselves or putting themselves out there, like, in these kind of more like sexual manner. So fucking do your thing. If you can also make a living out of it, even more power to you. you should do it, and especially if all of it is done consensually. But well, I'm gonna continue these topics and these discussions after I'm taking a quick break, and then I'll be right back after the after that. So yeah, I'll see you in a few minutes. Oh, okay, I'm back actually. I step onto this quick. Yeah, sorry, I was still like weirdly baffled by the whole thing with the thing that I just realized with Twitter with the legal or like the age protections, because that like the more I read it at the notice, the more odd it seems to me. Like, due to local laws, we are temporarily restricting access to this content till X estimates your age. What local laws? I don't seem to remember having any local law changes about it. So there been a change? And as 2021 comes to censorship. Like, I don't see anything new mentioning, so I'm not sure like what local laws are we talking about here. Oh, that's 2024, last year. With it, yeah, I'm not sure like what local laws are they referring, because is it referring to my actual local laws? But aside from that, then there's the second weird thing is like this content restricting access to content until the platform estimates my age, even though my account is clearly tagged with a proper at the very least with a proper year of birth. Like, literally, it even says what age I have, which is actually 100% legitimate age, and it's a way obviously adult age. Like, what estimate you're doing when you as a platform are allow me to input a date of birth, and for some fucking reason you're not taking that in account for my legality of it all. Like, huh? Like, the more I think on it, like, the more weird it is. Like, what local laws? Or it is just worded as due to local laws, but it's not my actual local laws, because and they're just applying it to the entire platform, no matter from where you are, just to be safe, I guess. And what age estimate if I put my age already there? And as I was looking to try to figure out, like, how can I attest, like, self-attested age? I've done that. I put it under the platform. I've indicated that I'm not under 18. Like, what? I did the ID verification thing is a premium feature. Like, it's not. Yeah, it's just a premium feature. It's not available for, you know, the general public. And to be fair, I would still feel shifty about it to give it to Twitter, my fucking account, my fucking ID out of all of them. So yeah, I have like no method. I actually have to look into it afterwards to see if and to actually look a bit more heavy, because so far it's only one account, and I'm not sure if it has anything to do with this type of content this account has. I know any other like not safe for work account that I'm actually kind of curious now. Yeah, again. Although I see one right here that is I'm guessing they're like AI detected or something like that, like, or algorithmically detected. One missed, and it's full-on nudity, which is the reason why I'm also not looking at this on the other browser thing, because I don't want to get banned. Huh? Yeah, what the? I am confused now. I'm really confused. Like, anyways, weird tangent aside, because yeah, we got through all of this because by the adjacency of talking about Stop Killing Games, we kind of got into the whole Fansly thing because it with the payment processors and now denying certain not safe for work content, and now it has been pushed into policies, and it has also now slowly affected even video game platforms like Steam and itch.io have already pulled out of their stores and delisted a lot of adult games that most likely are not compliant to new policies or new demands from payment processors, which sucks because it kind of goes in conflict with Stop Killing Games. At the very least, the argument that Ross made or Curse Farms when it comes to this issue is that by legal law, at the very least, there should be given a 30-day notice of delisting, and under Stop Killing Games, a method that could be kind of offered is to give them the opportunity for within that 30-day notice for the game to be downloaded and in some way backed up or offloaded outside of the platform, so that way they still have access of it indefinitely. That could be achieved through Stop Killing Games. The act of delisting the game, even currently, even with existing games that we have right now, that's not something the movement can do. The movement is only focused on consumers who've already bought and own a game that has then been removed or has its support cancelled, unfortunately, because at the very least, when it comes to games that have certain IP connections, or just simply, I don't know, there could be the scenarios where the publishing studio just dismantled, or like not necessarily, or the studios themselves, and there's nobody who actually is out there to take ownership of the product and is now just scattered, or to take the rights or rights of publishing or rights of distributions anymore. Like, yeah, in those scenarios, nothing can be done. And unfortunately, like currently, even as Stop Killing Games, because legally it's a lot complicated from my understanding, from what has been said. I don't know the inner details, but definitely one of them has to do with licenses. Like a reason why some games, for example, like one of my favorite games that has been delisted, it's Need for Speed Most Wanted, the 2005 one. The reason why you cannot buy the game anymore is simply because of licenses. Most likely IP licensing for some of the car brands, and most likely also for some of the music used in the game. It's no longer has expired, and obviously it's not viable financially speaking to indefinitely renew these licenses. And even if you want to renew, if one party denies, like let's say you, the developers, want to renew the license, but if the owners of the IP deny it, which is one of the reasons why in newer racing games certain brands are no longer seen compared to older ones, because now they have this kind of like stance of, oh, we don't want to encourage illegal racing and all that, even though it's a medium completely digital and in no way does it encourage, or it's like under the same logic as Grand Theft Auto, encouraging violence or actual criminal acts. It's under the same logic, so I don't know why brand IPs would deny it, especially because it's one of the biggest ways you could market. Like, yeah, maybe the video game market would not. It's not necessarily your biggest and highest opportunities at very least when it comes to certain luxury cars or like supercars, where I'm not sure you're gonna find many within that. Within the gaming community that would have the money to buy that kind of car, but still, marketing is marketing, no matter what. There's no such thing as bad publicity. That's kind of the thing. But yeah, anyways, that's a weird side tangent. But yeah, that game was like if the game denies, like that's also like a thing with the Transformers games. I'm pretty sure it's one of those scenarios where either Hasbro or Activision just simply did not want to renew the license, even though the other party might have wanted to. I don't know where the story is, but it's definitely, again, one of those cases. If one of the two involved parties just doesn't want to do it, then that's game over. Like, no matter how much the developer would want to still keep the game listed, if the IPs that they have have done a licensing agreement with no longer want to renew it, their hands are tied. So yeah, legally speaking, when it comes to delisting, that's not it. It's a lot harder to stop. But when it comes to ownership post acquisition, that's something that Stop Killing Games is focusing on. So in this scenario, it would be more of an issue about giving us due prior notice, like, you know, the 30 days notice, and the possibility and access to offload the game and back it up digitally in such a way where we can still have access to it even after the game is delisted, so we don't lose it at any point. That's the only thing, and that Stop Killing Games could help out in this scenario. But yeah, aside from that, I'm not sure. It sucks. I am, as I said, I'm also agreeing with a lot of the content, especially the content creators affected. Again, I'm not the type here, even though, although hear me out, I'm not saying this as a YouTuber. I'm saying this as someone who is passionate about the video game industry and someone passionate about all aspects of the interactive medium. And as I said, this medium has potential, and there are games out there with a ton of potential of things that are worth experiencing. And I've thought about the idea of maybe on other platforms having streams where we experience in a non-sexual, non-thing. Although, you know, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm really about it right now, because I'm still. It's a thing about boundaries, and I'm just still a bit reserved and how exactly this is gonna turn out. But I thought of the idea of what if we explore certain games that are, you know, are goddamn rights, legitimate like gaming experiences, but also have the nuts in for work kind of themes around it, and how exactly they explore those themes, but not with the intent of, you know, being it loot content, in the sense that, you know, I'm sure probably there are gonna be some people out there who are gonna get their own, are gonna, you know, get their thing going, but which is again one of the reasons why I'm not sure exactly how I would feel about it. But it's more about me just having a platform someplace where we can experience it, like for the game experience that it is, and see what it is about. But I don't know. That's something that I still have to kind of think about it. And right now, like one of the platforms, yeah, Fansing was one of them, but I'm not sure now because of all this how exactly it's gonna work out. So yeah, not sure if because I know there's also Picarto, the platform used for a lot of artists who use it for in many scenarios that it's kind of the go-to platform for any art that is not safe for work in a sense. I know that Mama Mango, my model mama, usually does Picarto streams out there for her more spicier art. So yeah, that might work. I don't know. I'm not sure if you can do it for gaming. It's something that I kind of thought of, but to be fair, I don't have like a list of games. It's something that I've not fully explored yet. Even I myself, I'm pretty fresh at this, because, you know, if I want to get my, you know, get my socks off with something, I just do my thing, find some content, not necessarily that is interactive, and just do whatever. When it comes to games, I'm too focused on actually on the game side of things in most scenarios. So I'm not sure, but there are some games out there at the very least that could be maybe more risque or loot adjacent, that maybe are not necessarily as okay-ish to be explored here. Like I know, like, you know, which is the current kind of big thing, you know, on the kind of visual novel-esque, although it's a bit more than just a visual novel. I've seen it actually being more than that, and might kind of appreciate that. Date Everything, like, it has a few of the characters, aside from covering some heavy topics, and in some cases not TOS friendly, and I do appreciate that the game actually gives you a forewarning before continuing interacting with that character. Be like, hey, this is content that may not be, you know, TOS friendly, or might be sensitive subjects depending for some people, because, you know, well, might be dealing with traumas related to that. They may not necessarily deal with that. So be like, do you want to skip this and just already have a predetermined relationship with the character? Which is like a really cool way to access that. And in some cases, you know, the characters can get a bit more more heavy in their topics for a platform that is not necessarily about not safe for work content. So, you know, even in that kind of thing, like the only game that I owned and currently, I got that one for free because I forgot exactly for what fucking thing they did, but I decided like getting it out of in the honor of, well, I fucking remember it from way back from Let's Players Honey Pop, because definitely like, yeah, from like I think like Markiplier's playthroughs of that game, how much of that game he was able to actually have a playthrough of. But yeah, you know, it's a silly batch free game. That could be something worth checking out. I don't know. That would be something there. But yeah, I don't know. That was something I had like a thought about it at some point. Would be worth having coverage or talking about that kind of in a more, you know, legitimate and giving them credit. Because again, I am the type of person that I'm out there, like, you know, I'm of the opinion sex work is actual work, so that also extends to whatever medium that represents it, including video games. But you know, to me, I'm also out there with the, I don't know, call it a bit not necessarily pretense, call it a bit high nose of me, but you know, I actually wanted to also be a game experience, not just a pretense of, or just some thinly veiled interactivity for the sake of, you know, reaching, because there are things there you can still think of it as a game and think, because again, the whole idea is achieving some sort of win condition, sort of victory. You're there to, you know, you're in a scenario, you want to achieve a goal. In this scenario, the goal is a bit different, but it's still a goal. You know, you've probably heard the saying with there is a goal kind of thing. So it all kind of applies here as well. Like, hey, create a challenge, create something, an interactivity, make something out of it, but not just like that. Could be like the third things, like kind of like the carrot on the stick. Like, oh, you want to achieve this? Go ahead. In some scenarios, I've seen it, and to me, that kind of always feels so annoying because I've seen it. In some scenarios, like especially I think like in a lot of like erotic type of games, I think I've seen it, where in a lot of cases, the loot content is seen in a failed conditions, like I don't know, whatever monster captures the protagonist, which in most scenarios it's female, and there's some loot act upon her, and that's not game design. That's not pertaining to game design. You're giving the reward for a failure, on a fail state. So that's not gonna encourage the person to progress through the game or to like progress forward. Yeah, you're just encouraging them to be like, okay, I want to see what happens when I fail with every kind of thing. That is contradictory to what, you know, the purpose of a game is. Like, actual think properly of a game design or a game concept around it. Like, don't just make it. Because that should be the reward, and you're putting it and you're giving it in a fail scenario. I don't know. That's just me ranting about just general gaming things. Which was why I've said that there is a lot of potential. There is something there that can be done. There's a lot of it that probably could be done there, but there is, of course, the same way as in other normal, you know, safe for work scenarios in mainstream section where you have a ton of slop. There are diamonds in the rough, and because, you know, I guess, yeah, the live service games are the kind of punching bag of being kind of the go-to thing for most slop content or some other platforms of other things of the sort. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I'm not sure exactly with the payment processors what can be done. I would personally try to keep an eye out to see if there's any developments or if anything kind of comes out of that. Because honestly, again, this is even wider of a problem than just video games. Because we just seen it affects streaming platforms, it affects content creators in general as a livelihood, and heavier and heavier restriction when it comes to existing game content and how exactly that's going to be handled, or just normal online content and platforms. It kind of also ties to also general adult platforms that now might be more bewildered, because I think like the Orange website, I think, is already under some weird scrutiny because of, I think Texas lawmakers already pushed something about it, and I think they've removed the access, or like not Texas, some other US state, I think. I don't fully remember the details there. Remove that, so it's kind of weird as well. So yeah, it's gonna impact a lot more things, and that it definitely needs to be done, because it, again, payment process is kind of holding this reign for what exactly? Because again, everything is, it's our money, it's our decision what we want to do with whatever products we want to interact with, or whatever services we want to apply, as long as they are legal, consensual, and above board. Like, why is that a problem? Like, let people do their thing. Like, I don't care what somebody does in their own house, as long as you're not giving the neighbors a hard time. Do your thing, whatever that thing is. Yeah, it's kind of sucky, in my humble opinion, about this whole thing with the payment processor, and it's definitely gonna also affect video games. So yeah, because of this whole situation, it's also kind of put this this vague idea that I had a bit on a break, just to see how things develop. And to be fair, again, as I said, I'm not sure exactly how I want to approach it yet. It's just something, and not something I want to do in the near future anyways. It's something probably a bit more later down the line that I will probably do. I don't know, it's still like, I feel like it has some potential there. I'm not sure exactly how it just, you know, multiple things, how exactly I want to cover it, handle it, the levels of boundaries that I want to kind of put out there, because that's a thing that I'm very heavy upon, because, you know, I did mention it before, and probably have seen it as well during the prior month. But I am Demi, so I have, for me, intimacy is something that it's not easily put out there to people that I have no you know, no level of comfort for. So to me, that's that can be a roadblock, and something that I have to figure out, like, how exactly to put it in a form that I would feel comfortable about it, and I would be sure that, and put the, you know, the boundaries necessary, that I'm sure that, you know, everything is going to be done appropriately. So we'll have to see. Not sure if Picardo could be a good alternative, or if there are platforms that could be good alternatives, or if any other platform is going to be resurgent. Some people have said, I'm not saying to these platforms, but some people have said that, honestly, like, a good fight that could be done, considering that there are platforms out there with pretty heavy influence. Like, somebody said, like, Steam could have just denied compliance, but it's hard to say if, like, yeah, I'm sure Steam has a lot of push and shove, considering that's a big digital market, at the very least when it comes to the video game space, one of the biggest markets. But I'm not sure what it could do about it by just becoming non-compliant and trying to somehow in return put the pressure, because not sure exactly what the loss of business, because it is kind of it's one of those kind of like a game of chickens type of things, where both sides, yes, technically would have to risk something. Because, like, yeah, they could payment processors for Visa and MasterCard could lose a big cash cow with all the payment processing and you know, and transaction fees and all that they might be getting from Steam. But at the same time, there's also the risk of, I mean, if Steam loses their payment processors, how are you gonna handle payments? Like, that's like another thing. Like, both sides have a big thing to lose. Like, and it's kind of like this weird game of chicken. Like, who is exactly willing to take the loss? And if they have something in, like, you know, it's more. It feels more obvious that it's something that, at the very least, for the payment processors, is more in their court. Like, okay, Steam does not want to be compliant. Yeah, they're a big enough cash cow, but if they don't want to be compliant, oh well, we're gonna cut off business. We're gonna take in the losses, and Steam's gonna be the one in again. I'm not these things have a lot of like legal aspects to it, especially in like a lot of like servicing and things like that. I'm not, again, I'm a game designer. My thing and my talent is to figure out how to make games work and be fun. I have no idea on the back end of things when it comes to these type of stuff, like payment processing and all that thing. What kind of push and shove every big platform might have to these big companies, and how exactly they could affect it. Because yeah, they might have some influence, but I'm not sure exactly how is that gonna work. Also, I just realized Steam has a racing fest. Unbound it's €5. Man, it's a 3-year-old game. It's already under such an insane sale. From a €70 game, really? Man, boy, that's an insane discount. I don't know, because I looked at it. I've seen some criticism, at the very least, with some aspects, but I don't know. I feel like it had potential. It was like the first Need for Speed game that I've seen in a while that kind of gave me the OG Most Wanted kind of vibes. It has like a lot of mixed reviews. I've seen like a legitimate argument with like with the Steam app, but I don't know. I was looking at it to see if maybe there's like some cool demos. Oh, The Crew 2, look, €6. Thanks, Ubisoft. I ain't gonna give you my money. I fucking love Uma Musume is listed here as a racing game. I mean, you're correct. It's racing horses. You are technically correct. It's just you're not racing them yourself. It's more of a race manager game. I don't know. Props to peeps who find it enjoyable. I don't know. I personally don't see the appeal. It's mostly probably because I don't like managing games, because to me that's kind of what it looks like. It's kind of generally looks like a management game with a gacha to kind of function slapped to it, and I'm like, nah, not my thing. I was curious to see if they're like demos. Oh, free demos. See. Motorfest has a demo, fair enough, but I don't care because that's hey. I'm looking for like demo games, and I've only seen like 8 games that might have a demo, and I'm pretty sure most of them are like really. Anyway. I've always enjoyed like the racing genre, but I don't know. I think in some aspects it's slightly stagnated. At the very least, I don't think they've tried to bring something new. Need for Speed has done a few things here and there that I've really appreciated, and there are a few games within the overall franchise that I do enjoy. Like, yeah, the OG Most Wanted, in my opinion, is probably one of the best ones out of the oldies. I don't know, some people might disagree, but I don't know. I think it has like its interesting charm and theme. When it comes to like newer fun things, I really like the reboot from 2014. I think it was also the first one that really put in like a really in-depth kind of car customization, which To me, like racing games, that's a big part of them in my perspective, because self-expression, I feel like it's a big part of it that I think makes it more. And that was the first one, and they really expanded quite a lot in the style of what the car culture is. You know, from racing to drifting to off-roads to circuit to like a lot more things. They actually brought like some interesting drifting, you know, modes and sequences and other things on sports. Those are more general, like official ones with a formula style racing. And I think there's some other ones. I think Heat has done like an interesting system with, you know, day and night. I think I do the game. Was it Hot? I forgot which was it, Hot Pursuit or Rivals, that also kind of brought in the kind of PvP aspect of it. I'm not sure if they're the first one. And Unbound kind of expanded upon the Heat system, the systems from Heat, and added this new flair with, you know, kind of like the weekly kind of challenge races up to like the big challenger, which felt like an interesting kind of combo of what the original Most Wanted was about. Because Most Wanted was kind of the same thing. To fight one of the Most Wanted, you first had to do like a ton of like challenge runs to basically kind of climb the ranks and prove yourself worthy for that Most Wanted to challenge them. Then and then, you know, with the aspects of, oh yeah, you generate a lot of currency and a lot of rep through the night side of the game, but you also run the risk of losing everything if you get busted. So, you know, it was also like I had those kind of like elements of risk reward from Heat. But I don't know, I think like that one like did an interesting mixture. But yeah, I'm not seeing. I'm kind of disappointed because, yeah, that's kind of my current vibe. I feel like racing games, or like the racing genre, some aspects has kind of become samey. Like, I looked at MotoFest and I'm not sure what feels different from what they done with the Crew 2. It's just being a car exclusive and not being just across, you know, all types of vehicles. And it has a bit more arcadey vibes, and to be fair, even the Crew 2, it pushed it a lot more heavier on the kind of arcadey racer vibes than other ones, you know, because that's kind of like it's either like kind of vaguely arcadey, kind of how the Crew is, or, you know, Need for Speed games, or a bit more like real or semi-realistic, or like more into the realism, like a Grid. But I think I have like Grid 1. I remember playing that game, like racing with some friends for it, and some other ones of the sorts, like some formula, like simulator races. And that's kind of it. There's some other ones out there that I've seen that looked a bit neat, but I don't know. I feel like I mean, like the Crew, the Crew, which, to be fair, now because we're discussing about Stop Killing Games, and that was kind of like the stepping stone. It's shut down for this initiative. I mean, the Crew, the first Crew had an interesting concept that I feel like, yeah, it would have been risky, and it kind of shows for you know, being a AAA. It now it kind of feels obvious why they've never done it, because AAA is not necessarily about taking kind of risky concepts. But to me, the Crew 1 had this kind of like nugget of an idea, I think somewhere hidden behind its systems. Not sure if I'm suspecting that the devs might have had something, or thought a bit about it, or kind of had this idea in mind to some way, because they had this entire concept of, you know, car builds depending on certain terrains, certain types of racings, and all that kind of thing, and every car had available at the very least a few builds, if not all of them in some scenarios. Or, you know, if you wanted them to be a bit more off-road, or even more heavier duty off-road, full-on circuit style racing, where if you even just smelled dirt, your car would have just slowed down. You know, or the general like street racer who can just vaguely handle off-road but not too much. of it, or some other ones. Like, to me, that kind of had me this kind of vibe of racing MMO, like, or like racing RPG. Because to me, like the whole like kind of build vibe of speccing your car to fit like certain environments. You having the option where kind of the first off-road with the street races being those kind of like semi-versatile classes, while you have then the hyper specialized, you know, the bigger tankier one for like, you know, big heavy duty, like smashing things around the circuit one being all about speed. Like, it had like some interesting potential. Like, let me see if I can find and I feel like it would have been an interesting point of exploration that they could have done. Car builds. Oh, card specs. I think this is from the first one, right? I think it has to be. I think so. I think so. Yeah, you know, it is. It is from. It is the wiki, and unfortunately, it's kind of lacking. But it had this kind of interesting idea. I just want to kind of show it because I can't remember. I don't remember it from memory, and unfortunately, I cannot access the game to look at it myself. But yeah, these are kind of the specs, how they call them. You had like street car, dirt car, which is kind of the off-road, performance car, which is a bit more high speed, raid spec car, which is kind of for the yeah, like missions out there. I think this one was like DLC specific, as well as circuit car, which was just for the streets. Like if you just just barely touched dirt, you were out of it. Drift spec, I think, or I think like monster spec or like drag spec. I think I remember like some of them being DLC or something of the sorts. Let me I think some of them were DLC. I think these ones, Drift, Monster, and Drag, I think these were DLCs because of the colors, because of the color coding. Because the other ones have this kind of like simple formatting with just a single letter, you know, circuit, raid. Which were these kind of like off-roaders, but also good to kind of like take down cars. Performance, which are fully kind of high-spec supercars. And I think it was only available for cars. Looks of it. Or like, you know, or like some kind of high performance. Drift. Oh no, this is dirt, which is the off-road spec. Street. And the general stock cars, which also kind of tells you what they could have been. Yeah, to feel like, in my opinion, like when I looked at these, to me like felt like kind of like the interesting kind of like trifecta or like the holy trinity of RPGs or MMOs. I feel like there was something there, like you could have created something out of it and somehow like create scenarios where you would have required, I don't know, maybe something like a street or performance or like circuit car that, you know, maybe a performance or circuit car that needs to be some sort of like scouting. You know, depending on the certain scenarios, maybe you needed a dirt car for certain requirements. You know, the raid car if you wanted to, you know, combat or take down certain vehicle targets, and maybe at the same time, you know, the raid car is also like the tank in quotation marks to stop other you know, other vehicles or pursuers, probably like the police. Yeah, to me, like, it felt like it had something there. And I think like it had this kind of weird nugget of potential that for a sequel, they could have really doubled down on this idea and somehow kind of created into this kind of MMO-ish, RPG-ish kind of racer, where you could have created like multiplayer content where you would have needed and required teams to have cars of different specs to fulfill different requirements, and each spec was better for certain activities than others. But you had to encounter multiple activities that require different type of cars for in each general event or mission. So yeah, I feel like there was something there. There was like a nugget of potential there, in my opinion, where you really could have pushed it. You really could have made something big out of it, or something like, actually make it like an RPG. But again, it's definitely like a risky concept. It's a really wild concept out there, in my opinion. Like, I don't think I've seen it before. I'm not sure if there is anything close to it out there for like racing games. So, and it's kind of obvious. It kind of goes to show that AAA studios don't really go with the risky ideas and don't try to explore it. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame. And even more that I can no longer even experience this nugget anymore. And that's the sad part, and that's the kind of thing then why I am passionate, why I think Stop Killing Games, it's a good movement that we should push on as far as we can do. Because maybe, yeah, for most people the crew was not a big thing. I enjoyed what it had. I actually legitimately enjoyed it. It was probably one of my favorite Ubisoft games out there. I don't enjoy a lot of them. I feel like, and I've had a few enjoyed it because I mostly played it solo. One, its biggest downfall, it didn't have any sort of party system or way to invite or like way to hop servers to meet friends, which was fucking awful. So it was such a coin toss to try to find all your friends in the same server, and we just couldn't. Because I think I remember me and two friends, and we always were in some sort of scenario where two of us were together, but the other one was somewhere else on a different server. And constantly we were never like, initially you probably could have gone under the assumption, because me and one of the friends were literally roommates and living in the same place in a different country than our other friend, and you could have got like, oh, it's a regional thing, you were put on a closer regional server. But there were scenarios where I wasn't with my roommate, but my roommate was with him, or vice versa. I'm like, it had nothing to do with regional things. Like somehow me being on a, I don't know, UK server with my roommate, while our other friends was on a central EU server or something of the sort. So nah, he was still thrown with him or with me or vice versa. But we were barely able to find all three of us together, because the only method you could do it was just literally hop into the game, marked a point in the map where as a meetup, we all went there and tried to find each other, and then after we find each other, we want to, we partied up, because you can party up, but only in game when you find the car, when you find the player, and then once we partied up, go do some content. But you couldn't have done it out of it. You couldn't have done it in a menu or do some sort of invite or anything of the sort. So it was really annoying. But yeah, but at the very least, when it came to like me playing or experiencing the game single player, I actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's really sad. But anyways, I'm taking a quick break, and then I'll return once the ad is over, because right now we're in an ad break. Oh, okay, there we go. Ad now over. I'll be honest with you all, I'm kind of surprised and impressed that I was able to be ranty and yappy for almost 3 hours. I'm actually kind of surprised. I didn't think I would be able to kind of keep up a stream of just me talking for so long. I think I had barely had any talking points, and somehow I was able to kind of like keep at it for a good chunk of it. Because at the very least, I wanted to run within like 3 to 4 hours ish. At minimum, even if I wouldn't be able to do much. Because yeah, it is the unfortunate that apparently I was kind of like proven right with my suspicions, but I just didn't have any fallback plan. Or at least not a fallback plan that I really wanted to do. So I was kind of safe with today being like, hey, there's a lot of things that not necessarily a lot, but a few things here and there that maybe could be discussed and covered and do all sorts of things. Because yeah, the new method that now can be done with the Digital Fairness Act that you can now offer as a European citizen as a whole, not necessarily a European member citizen. So that's something that can be done. Plus the whole thing with the payment processors. There is a layer there that also affects Stop Killing Games, and to some extent, at the very least, on the side of gaming, there are a few solutions, or at the very least, some practices that could be done to prevent at the very least those who already own adult content to not lose access to it. But unfortunately, I don't think the movement itself has any way to stop the act of delisting, at the very least when it comes to video games. That's a whole other can of worms that has nothing, that is not as heavily tied to this movement specifically, and it's a lot more complicated because delistings happen for multiple reasons, and in many scenarios it's out of the developer's hand or even the platform's owner hands. So yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that. But at the very least, when it comes to preserving what you've already bought, downloaded, and have access to, that may be doable. But unfortunately, it's not gonna save anybody else affected by it from that does content in other offers content in other ways. Like as I said, things like Fansly or other adult website content creators of any sorts. Other forms of product that might also be affected by this may not be as well. I'm not even sure, like, although it is kind of pretty obvious that one of the biggest advice that people do, especially for creators out there that do other like sort of digital creation, for example, like art, I might do like some sort of not safe for work or adult art that might be not compliant to these policies. I mean, there's a simple workaround that I've heard of. Again, look a bit more deeper into it and take this advice from people that have actually do it and follow their guidelines. Don't follow it from me, but they said one of these methods is you don't disclose in detail the type of work you do. You just say that this was a transaction, I don't know, with a piece of art or something like that, but you don't actually fucking tell the payment processing system what exactly in detail, like, here's this entire lewd piece that does this, and this to them. Like, no, just keep it brief and keep it as nondescript as possible. Just enough descriptors to kind of clearly classify what type of exchange of goods and services this is, and then that's it. I don't go more than that in detail, and you should be safe. And probably some other things in that regard can be done with other type of content that could be created and transactioned through. But when it comes to like public platforms where you might be put on full display, like how Fansly is, where they're more deeply interconnected in how all the financials are managed. I'm guessing it's a bit more complicated than that. So yeah, but it's still a shame, and hopefully there might be a movement or something that might be pushed, because it is a big outrage, and I'm not right now. There are not a ton of alternatives. There are some. Like, I think to some extent Patreon can still work like that if you wanted to work like that. I think like Subscribestar, I think I've seen it as a mention as well. I'm not sure like when it comes to streaming platform. I think you can do streaming through Patreon, I think. I'm not sure. I mean, depending on the type of content, Picardo still works. And that's quite a bit. I'm not sure what else could be about, but we'll see. It is a bit of a shame. In this one, I'm a bit more out of my depth because it's not just video game related. It's a more wider industry that is affected here, and wider forms of content that are affected. So it's not as easily approachable, at the very least from my perspective. There might be someone out there who might put it into words a lot better and be able to underline the actual root issues and how exactly those could be handled as well. But the obvious one is that the payment processor should not care or should not meddle in these kinds of businesses, as long as everything is done above board legitimately with consent. Things should be done as they normally are, with no other issues or concerns. But oh well, that's what exactly they have coming up. So yeah, talk a bit about that, the new method, of course, the general use, like talking about extra things here and there, and my general rantiness. And I guess I do have a tendency to go into tangents, the same way kind of how I got into the tangent with the crew and about the whole thing with the car specking and how it could have like a potential could have had a potential to be an sort of MMO-ish RPG type of game if they doubled down onto this concept of car specking in a sequel. But if you've never done it, AAAs usually don't take these kinds of risks. It's a shame. And as I mentioned before, because of the shutdown, I can't even experience this nugget of a concept that it was, or kind of go back into it and kind of relive it and rethink. Let's say, for example, maybe somebody wants to jump onto the idea, and this game had like a good starting point, and they want to like try it out and kind of understand like how exactly these cars performed and how exactly they handled each terrain or each aspect of the game. But they can't do it now, Mo. I can't relive the nostalgia of it myself, and others can't as well. Like, for example, even if I just had the novel idea of, I don't know, it still seems wild, and I'm not saying that I would do it myself, but let's say if I really enjoyed that novel idea and I actually wanted to explore it myself, I can't experience this game anymore to try to glean from it more ideas and try to make something derivative from it. I can no longer do that, and so it's gonna make my work 10 times harder. Because now I just have to either rely on my memory, try to look for video games or for other like written content that they did specifically details how these things functioned, and try to interpret it that way. Which is not the same, but I guess, and it's not necessarily a fun alternative. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that this movement will fix. These kind of things, so we no longer deal with them. So that's kind of why I'm passionate about this, because I'm already being affected by that. I'm like, man, I really like these games. I want to occasionally experience, like even the Transformers Cybertron games. Like, there was like a dedicated community, and now it's in that scenario. Even with the dedicated community making their own servers, you are still beholden to those who maybe at times might jump at some games, maybe at not. At the very least, when everything was handled semi-officially, or at the very least through an easier method, you could have easily jumped to some games. Now, because there's a ton of things and efforts, because people don't like to do like a ton of things, like to jump too many loopholes to be able to access. Like, the more steps you add to a process, the less people are willing to do it. So yeah, me trying today to have a bit of coverage of the Transformers game as kind of part of the talking and awareness of Stop Killing Games couldn't be done, because there's not enough of a big community, or at the very least for me to even do a few matches. And I'm not even sure if I've installed the system properly. That could have been another issue, which again, because all of this is done through community efforts of people who try their best with what they can and what knowledge they have, and in their free time, because all of this is again voluntarily done. Because there's also a big risk of anything, if it's done under certain payments or under certain circumstances, they could be hit with a cease and desist, if not even worse, with a lawsuit. And believe me, nobody has Activision money to kind of combat them with their lawyers. Like, yeah, you can probably go with the idea that it's a dead and forgotten game. In some scenarios they might not necessarily handle, but you never know. They still run the risk. So even that's like another thing, because Stop Killing Games, in my opinion, it could also serve to protect in the future communities' efforts of creating custom servers, custom content, that sort of thing, with the new regulations, and no longer have to live under the fear that they could be just smacked down at any point by a big wig studio just because they don't like the idea that they just wanted to keep a game alive, because they think they might be poaching their potential customers or profits. So yeah, that really sucks. Yeah, which is why I still consider this important. It should be done. So yeah, if you can, sign the petition. You have the links, you have the QR code, do whatever. There's still a few days left. As I said, even though we are at a good number that will most likely, almost 100%, go through and reach the European Parliament, still it's important to have as many voices heard as possible that really care about this issue. Yeah, that's kind of the general thing. Now, a thing that we could look at that I saw mentioned, but I'm not sure exactly how much input I myself can do, and it's a bit lengthy video. There is a video that Ross has posted that seemed interesting to me about Stop Killing Games responding to frequently asked questions and even offer guidelines from actual game developers. So people that are in the industry know their things or two, and there are, I think, like multiple people, not just one person that answers to this, if I'm not mistaken. At least there are two people. I think I saw on the thumbnail. One. It was Ross, and I just taken a look. But yeah, it offers basically for a ton of talking points and even suggestions how exactly things could be handled. What aspects of end of life plan and that, and even offer suggestions in how to handle servers. What exactly to do if they are connected to like ecosystems and all that. It's gonna get a bit heavily technical, and even to a point where even I won't necessarily understand it myself. So again, there could be things that we can look at and see what it's about. As it does cover quite a good amount of things, but it is an hour long. Again, I don't necessarily want to be like a reactionary content type of person. Right. Hey. There you go. I'm not the type of person that does like often like reactionary content. I'm not sure exactly. I want to stay like an hour to do this because I'm not sure what commentary or like what input I can offer myself. Because again, there's a possibility that, and it even mentions it in the description, that it's gonna get a bit technically heavy, and probably to a point where even I won't necessarily be the person to offer any input there myself. And at the very least, if I react to something, I would love to offer my own input and my own perspective, or have a bit of commentary to it. I'm not just gonna be here just nodding and mm-hmming to every point that is being given and just poach from somebody else's video. So at the very least, I'm gonna do the bare minimum and up. Game dev. There we go. At the very least, I'm gonna do the bare minimum and give it at the very least link you all to Ross's video and about it, and you can look at it, because I'm not sure if I want to cover it myself. I don't know what to about it here, and it's quite lengthy. Maybe you can look at a chunk of it, because yeah, suggestions. How can cost be reduced for end of life? Minimum viable build to servers, replacing your environment locally. Like already we're like even a quarter of the way there, we're already getting heavily technical. Usable patterns and how to use them in the future. Yeah, it quickly gets technical. it quickly gets technical. But at the very least, we can look at a few of them. I think at the very least up until replicating your server environment locally. At the very least, like the first half of it would be worth looking at, just to kind of give you an idea. So basically, kind of like I'm teasing and reacting to it, but if you want to see the entire full thing, you go to Process video that I linked. That way, you know, he gets the full viewership and not me, not from me. You know, I still want to respect other people's effort and all that. Because hey, he made the video, he got in touch with this developer and pushed it out there and did the thing, not me. You know. But let's at least look a bit at it.
Hey, this is a video I was hoping to help make that ended up mutating into its own thing. On the Stop Killing Games campaign, I think most supporters just need to hear that we're trying to stop games from being destroyed. It's not impossible to do this,
yes,
and it won't ruin the industry by doing so. Now, I try to dive into the details when people want me to, but my answers don't always satisfy developers. I take more of a bird's eye view approach, where I think if end-of-life plans for games became a requirement, I think developers might be amazed at how many solutions would emerge. But that's not good enough for some.
Yeah.
Some people, developers especially, really want more technical details. So what I originally wanted to do was interview a couple developers who could speak on this topic much better than I ever could. But what ended up happening was we had some scope creep, and now we have a full-fledged presentation from two experienced developers,
get scope creep.
Olive Badger and Matthew Castles from Alderon Games. I think my introductions of them won't even do them justice, but between the two of them, I think they have a lot of perspective and practical information on how games in the future, and even some in the present, can start having end-of-life plans. So this is by and large a presentation they put together, covering how end-of-life plans could work, and covering some common questions developers have. It's going to get technical, so if you're here for some of my goofier videos, this one isn't for you. I'm just hosting it to get more information out there. But if you're a programmer who's been wanting more details about how we will save games, then this one's for you. Alright, I'll let them take it away.
Yeah, this is more inclined to the technical savvy and the people that might be developers either of games or not, that to get a better understanding. And I think yeah, this was like the biggest issue that maybe for a long time the movement needed, is actual developers talking about this issue in support of it and how exactly it could be handled. Because even though Pross and maybe other people who are not necessarily developers themselves, or maybe with enough of the experience and the know-how on the technical back end of it and how exactly it can be handled, as much as passionate and as true to themselves they are, and as genuine as they are to the issue, and not at all underhand or anything of the sorts, if some people just need that expertise, credibility, like, you know, have the expert, have the person that actually is in that nitty-gritty, is in that space, and does that to that and handles those kinds of issues to that entire extent, talk about it and come up with talking points and how exactly this can be handled and how is it actually positive. And that's the thing, like, it's important to have the expert's perspective, and not having that side of the argument for a long time was probably one of the biggest detriments in why this movement took so long until it kind of picked up again. So yeah, having the devs talk, it's more important. Yeah, this is definitely inclined more to the developers and people out there who have a better understanding on how the technical backend works and what exactly the solutions could be out of it, and you know, would offer definitely more satisfying on the technical side and more deeper hyper specifics than what somebody who just is looking there to achieve an end goal, not necessarily offer their solution. Because that's kind of the thing. Ross just wants to make sure that the end goal is those requirements become mandatory, not necessarily the solution. The solution should be up to the developers. We're just giving them a requirement that they need to fulfill, a regulation.
Hi, I'm Olive Badger, and I have been asked to help with the Stop Killing Games initiative and talk a little bit about some of the common questions that we're seeing from developers.
Sorry, but I just want to say truly a gamer's kind of a gamer developer's way. I see there. I think that's a Tech 9. Is that a Helldiver gun? I think it is. I don't know why it just gives me Helldiver vibes. Maybe it's from another property. I see some kind of Pokemon-esque plushies. Got Daisy, not Daisy, or War of the Worlds. I don't know. It looks familiar. This thing here. I can't put my finger on it. Yeah, to some extent, looks kind of very, very Dev Space.
A bit of background on me. So, up front, I'm not a game developer. I have 5 years of IT experience working in various different parts of the industry, doing data center to internal IT and IT management. After that, I transitioned over to software development, where I've done a decent amount of embedded software development for drones and then moved into full stack development. I've even done a little bit of DevOps and project management for a small startup. I do have a YouTube channel that just kind of popped off with this whole thing.
I've seen her Save Our Games. I recognize that thumbnail. And you position this gaming in 30 seconds. I think that's Nikolai Stefanutsa, the vice president. That's probably discussing about his support for the Stop Killing Games.
It's just Olive Badger. Now, that said, this presentation was put together not just by me, but also Matthew from Adreancard Games, who is a game developer. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Matthew Kessels. I'm the founder of Adreancard Games. I've been making and modding games for the past 15 years. In 2016, I made my own game studio, which is completely independent. We also made our own platform replacement to Steam. And in 2019, we launched a dinosaur survival game called Path of Titans. So I'm going to use this game as an example on how we're going to do an end-of-life plan and some issues we'll need to fix when end-of-lifing the game. I'll talk more about that towards the end.
Thank you, Matt. So let's get into this PowerPoint presentation where we'll talk about the different ways you can stop killing games as
truly the biggest tool of every game developer, PowerPoints. Let me just talk to you about why this is important. Let me just pull up a PowerPoint.
A game developer. This will start off talking about the broad concepts, then get more into specifics as we move on. First up, what are some possible methods for end-of-lifing your game? Before we dive into the technical details, let's establish the 3 primary approaches for ending the life of your game responsibly. The method you choose will depend heavily on your game's architecture, technical constraints, and business consideration.
I just want to read them before most likely is going to jump into speak about a bit about them. Okay, what are some possible methods to end the life of your game? This is dependent on the game. Option 1, release private server files or support peer-to-peer sessions. Players or communities can host their own multiplayer servers. Code can be stripped out that's no longer needed or simplified for community use. Fair enough. That's kind of been talked about in the past. Make sure you have direct IP connect options for players. Yeah, some forms are like, server connections. Option 2, release source code. Release both the game and the server code. This can be done in a limited way where players can only use the code to fix the game from working and can't use it for other reason. Allow the players and community to be able to fix missing game features out of end of life, so it's a bit more than just hosting. It also kind of allows them to bit of altering and more than anything modding. Other options are preferred because they keep the game functional without any work from additional players. Technically isn't a solution for the current wording of the initiative. However, we are fine with it as an alternative option, provided players can get the game working. And option 3, release a feature complete game with save transfers. Release a standalone version of the game that is free for owners of the end of life of the original end of life version. Allow for save transfers for the end of life version of the game to the standalone version. So basically get the game fully on a non-DRM kind of scenario, and then from that point on you do something whatever you want with it. and kind of like set it up in your own way and like figure out how to, you know, set up everything yourself if in case of a multiplayer title. What I'm understanding.
So first up, we have option 1, which is to release private server files or support peer-to-peer sessions. This is often considered to be the gold standard for game preservation. When you release private server files, you're essentially giving the community the tools they need to host their own multiplayer servers. The key here is that you can strip out code that's no longer needed. Things like payment processing, analytics, and proprietary algorithms, all while keeping the core gameplay functionality intact. Make sure your game includes a direct IP connect option, as this would become crucial when centralized matchmaking is no longer available. All right, next up at option 2 would be to release the source code. This approach provides maximum flexibility for the community, but does require careful consideration of what you're releasing. You can release both game and server source code under a limited license where players can only use the code to keep the game functional and not for commercial use purposes. This allows the community to fix bugs and maintain missing features after end of life. However, other options are generally preferred because they keep the game functional without requiring additional work from players. And for option 3, you can release feature complete games with save transfers. This approach works particularly well for games with significant online components that can be converted to offline experiences. For example, you release a standalone version that's free for owners of the original game, and importantly, you would allow save transfers from the online version to the standalone version. This would ensure that players don't lose their progress when the transition happens. Alright, so let's take a look at a real-world example of how option 1 worked. A Spellbreak, developed by Proletariat, was a multiplayer battle royale game available on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. When they ended support in January of 2023, they took the responsible approach of releasing a private server version for PC Windows users available for free. This is exactly what we mean by preserving the core gameplay experience. Even though the official servers went dark, players could continue to enjoy the game that they had purchased. The private server maintained the essential multiplayer functionality while removing the infrastructure burden from the developers. Alright, so here's an example of option 2, Duelist, which was published by Warner Bros. Games and available on PC, iOS, and Android, which ended support on February 27th of 2020. The developers made the remarkable decision to release the source code to GitHub under a CC0 license, which is essentially public domain. This approach gave the community complete freedom to maintain, modify, and improve the game. While it requires more technical knowledge from the community, it does ensure the longest possible lifespan for the game, since dedicated fans can fix issues, add features, and port the game to new platforms as needed.
Damn, a full-on Creative Commons license? Damn, that's actually bold. I don't think I've seen many games out there that have done that, but yeah, that's definitely
and here's another strong example of open sourcing. It's called Caller's Bane, formerly known as Scrolls, developed by Mojang. Available on PC, macOS, and Android, it ended support on February 13th, 2018, but was officially resurrected as Caller's Bane and made open source. What makes this case particularly interesting is that they released both the game client and server files for download. The free client can join community servers and anybody can host a server. This creates a distributed ecosystem where the game's survival doesn't depend on any single entity. If one server goes down, for example, others can continue serving the community. Pretty cool, right? Nintendo.
Yeah, although to be fair, I think Mojang is probably one of the few studios that really push heavily into that kind of section of how to handle you know, hosting and servers, because it's very akin to kind of how Minecraft works, even though yeah, it's still decently monetized out there, but still you have functionalities to host your own servers, have custom servers. Modding is still a big thing in Minecraft, and other Mojang titles having a similar thing does not surprise me.
Nintendo's Animal Crossing Pocket Camp provides an excellent example of option 3. This mobile game ended support on November 28th, 2024, but Nintendo released Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete as a replacement. This is a masterclass in player-friendly transitions. They replaced the free-to-play, microtransaction-heavy online version with a paid offline version that removes microtransactions entirely. For a flat $20 purchase, players get access to all content that was previously behind the paywalls. Most importantly, they allowed users to transfer their save data, ensuring that years of progress weren't lost. This approach respects both players' time, investment, and their financial investment in the game. All right, now that we've seen...
Also, yeah, I remember like I've seen in talks about the Pocket Camp, Animal Crossing, and honestly, yeah, and to be fair, and even that smart on Nintendo, they're still racking some money out of it. Like, yeah, nothing too major anymore because yeah, they shut down everything and every support, but still, a flat $20 extra purchase to kind of cover probably a bit of the efforts and development costs to handle, you know, the transfer and everything of the source, and they're available and for just be hosted in whatever platform it is hosted to be downloaded. But for them, they're still racking some profit out of it, and the players are happy. They still have access to their original save files, where they most likely invested not only time but also money through the microtransaction system that it was in place beforehand. But at the same time, still be able to experience the full game and fully available on their devices.
In some successful examples, let's step back and look at the broader context of what we're trying to achieve here. Game preservation isn't just about keeping old games running, it's about respecting the culture and artistic value of interactive entertainment, honoring players' investments of time and money, and ensuring that future generations can experience and learn from the games we create today. Creating an effective end-of-life plan requires thorough documentation and clear communication. Let me walk you through the essential components here. So first, communicate to players that the game has an end-of-life plan. This should be done early and often. Ideally, players should know from the time of purchase that you've thought about preservation. Contact players and let them know how long the end-of-life patch will be available for download. Give them a realistic timeline. For example, will it be available for 6 months, 2 years? I mean, players need time to prepare. And then list out supported features that would continue working, such as single-player mode, direct connect options, and LAN play. Be very specific about what will still function. List out features that would be removed, such as matchmaking, leaderboards, or cloud services. Transparency here prevents player frustration. Include documentation on installing, running, or playing the game, especially if setup becomes more complex once official support ends. Consider that players may be setting this up years later on completely different hardware. Do your best to document any known bugs or workarounds that the community should be aware of. This saves everyone time and frustration. And if you own the IP, provide a clear written statement allowing for non-commercial use such as community servers or mods. This legal clarity is crucial for community preservation efforts. If a game can be modded, consider releasing tools or documentation for modders to extend its life. The modding community is often your best ally in long-term preservation. And finally, communicate what hardware or OS might be needed for the end-of-life version. If your server software runs on a different platform than the client, make this as clear as possible.
It's probably things like maybe Linux or boards, like definitely. I'm guessing I'd expect a Mac to be there to host the servers, depending on how complex or what particularities it has. Again, a bit of texting, but honestly, all of it is just makes sense. I think it's quite obvious. Like, first of all, yeah, communication, transparency. Make it very clear what exactly is going to happen and the plan. What do you want to do? What's going to be available? What's not going to be available? Documentation is a really important thing. Like, minimize the efforts that the player need to need to do to understand this, be transparent with it. Even if maybe if somehow there is no disclosure at the start of the game's lifespan, similar to how you have the notices for whenever a game is discontinued or anything of the sorts, you can have a similar thing where you give a prior notice like, we are officially ending support, we are now engaging our end of life plan, and this is the end of life plan that we've handled for this game. Here are the details, here's what you need to do, and of course give players time to actually prep for it, not be like, here's how you do it, you have 1 week to do so, good luck after that, hope you can handle it. But yeah, communication is definitely, and clear written statements on everything that's going to be available, what exactly you need to do to get it running, and for anything that is related to legal aspects, what exactly are the limitations and freedoms that we have when it comes to altering or having or using the game and property.
Where runs on a different platform than the questions would we be able to give for existing games to move over to support their game at end of life? Now please keep in mind these are just suggestions and won't be possible for all existing games due to existing constraints. Stop Killing Games is mostly focused on future game designs. Well, for games that are already released but haven't planned for end of life, here are the most effective strategies. Release server software or tools that allow players to host their own servers. Again, this is the gold standard for game preservation. You can provide server binaries that allow dedicated community members to host their own servers, and this requires careful preparation to remove all the proprietary code and secrets while maintaining core functionality. Focus on creating packages that work out of the box with minimal technical knowledge required. Open source key components so the community can maintain the game independently, and consider open sourcing non-proprietary game logic, networking, code, and tools. This allows the community to maintain and improve the game independently. So start with less sensitive components like UI systems, utility libraries, or game balance configurations. Try to avoid releasing anything containing trade secrets, licensed third-party code, or proprietary algorithms. Do your best to provide documentation and assets to help fan projects continue the experience. You can also create comprehensive guides for server setup, configuration, and troubleshooting. Include game assets that players might need for custom content creation, textures, models, sound effects, and level editors. This documentation becomes invaluable when your official support ends and helps ensure knowledge transfer to community maintainers. Create official mod support or expansion tools before shutdown, implement robust modding tools and APIs before shutdown announcement. This gives the community tools to extend the game's lifespan through custom content and modifications. Simple scripting APIs, level editors, and asset replacement tools can dramatically extend a game's community lifespan. Release a single player or offline version that can preserve core gameplay. Create offline versions that preserve core gameplay mechanics without requiring server connectivity. You can strip out multiplayer dependencies and convert online features to local alternatives where possible. Note that this only really applies to games that were already single player to start with. If your game has multiplayer support, you should do your best to keep this functionality working at end of life. We're not asking to convert multiplayer into a single player experience. The key to successful game to
yeah, here it's mostly referring to first of all, obviously single player experiences that have some sort of online functionality, be it because I don't know, they have some sort of like account connectivity, or maybe there is some sort of monetary system within that single player game function, or anything else of the sorts. Maybe there's some sort of like a friend list but doesn't have any impact to how you're experiencing the core gameplay, or anything of the sort. So, you know, those are stripped down so you can still have access to the core game. Like the crew, for example, kind of worked, because as I said, I experienced the entire game and most of it single player, like including the races. I think majority of the races, if not all races that I've done, were with bots. I've not done races with players, so you literally can experience the entire kind of built-in story within that multiplayer scenario and everything of the sorts on your own. It's completely single player and just can explore the surrounding, even the open world events. Most scenarios were, you know, created with already placed in bots, so, you know, with the possibility of players to join in on the event, but they didn't need to do it. So again, they could have done, maybe there would have been a bit of an effort, a bit of a work, but it could have been stripped out of its online dependencies and still been left with the core functionality. So yeah, it's more about those kind of scenarios. Like the crew, it's a bit up there, because yes, it had this kind of entire back and forth controversies. Did it actually have an online function, offline function, or not? As there were some talks like behind the scenes that within the studio, if there was an offline option or anything else of the sorts. But at the very least, for truly single player games that might have some small online connectivity requirements, or like server connectivities, be it for cloud saves, some sort of maybe like friend system functionality, or maybe some monetization or account connections, or, you know, cross account functions, those to be stripped out. It's about, you know, still let the game be out there. While for games that have a multiplayer functionality, or that have some sort of like multiplayer experience, they're still encouraged to, you know, make an effort to actually also preserve the multiplayer experience through prior methods mentioned. So, you know, you still can, you know, host servers, maybe have access to the binaries yourself, or create within built-in tools to host the server. And of course, the creating official mod support and expansion tools, that's a big thing. And as well as, you know, we provided documentation to do so. As again, id Software is a big one on that one. Like, you know, they even offered for like Doom Eternal, and now officially mod support and mod creators. Even things like, you know, level editors and things like that. I'm still putting the Doom in one, but for Doom 2016, they kind of offered you a level-ish editor. So with a bit of extra effort, probably you could have even make it in such a way where those could have been used for like online experiences, and I think you can. To some extent you could, but of course not to. If you somehow like make it built in within the engine or within the game, not necessarily using the engine level editor, because depending on the studio, the engines are proprietary, and that's trade secrets, that's infringement on you know, proprietary softwares and tools and code that you cannot have access to. That's those are you know, owned by the company. Like for example, Ubisoft uses their own proprietary engines. They don't have any of the important ones. It uses Unreal, like Doom. I think it's most of it's under Unreal, if I remember correctly. Other games under Unreal kind of work fine that way. But yeah, if they're like proprietary, it's most likely. But at the very least, offers something. For example, CD Projekt Red, like they offered like mod support, modding tools, modding options, APIs, and all that. And it's under like and it's under their Red engine, which is their proprietary one. So, you know, and again, like modding is the best thing you can do to your game, because it not only keeps it alive, but it keeps it fresh, because the modding community is your lifeblood, your lifeline. It's having a dedicated community that brings new things, keeps the environment fresh, and keeps people jumping back at the very least from time to time, because there you have those dedicated few who are willing to put in the work, willing to understand how the inner workings of the game function. But if you fully show respect to that side of the community, and you offer them proper tools, and even better than that, proper documentation and how to do all of that, they're gonna make amazing things, and you're gonna be prepared for it. And as I said, the longer your game is kept alive even after you ended support, that's still a positive publicity and positive things that you can receive as a publisher and developer. Because hey, people are still gonna remind that, hey, this studio let us have access to this game and offered us these tools to do all this cool modding things. So let me check out whatever new games they've released, and maybe they're gonna do the same thing with those ones. You know, publicity is all, you know, it's still a form of publicity. It's still something that keeps you in the conversation. It keeps, you know, people circle around your work. So it's important.
convert multiplayer into a single player experience. The key to successful game preservation is planning ahead. When you design preservation into your game from the beginning, rather than trying to retrofit it later, you save significant time, money, and technical complexity. So let's discuss how to build these systems from the ground up. Right, so how do developers reduce cost for an end-of-life plan?
The biggest argument, the cost.
That's a great question. So cost reduction starts with smart decisions during development. Option 1 would be to avoid bad licensing agreements. Prefer agreements which don't have restrictions on giving binary versions of code out to players and don't have time limits. When you're negotiating middleware licenses, think about the end-of-life scenario. Some licenses explicitly prohibit redistribution or have clauses that make preservation expensive or impossible. Option 2 would be to use open standards and open source solutions that don't have these types of restrictions. Instead of using Amazon or a serverless database, you may prefer more open options like MySQL, or create a transition plan where MySQL can be used for community servers while Aurora is used at scale during active development. This gives you flexibility to scale during active development while ensuring community servers can run on accessible technology. Option 3 would be to code the game assuming services can fail or be removed. Make sure the game can handle service failures gracefully instead of crashing or showing cryptic error messages. This defensive programming approach not only helps with preservation, but also makes your game more robust during active development. All right, so what is the minimum viable build?
Yeah, basically kind of the push is to at the very least either offer transitions, from my understanding. Yes, even though this is not going to be happening for any probably existing games, because who knows what licensing they're under. This one could be even doable now if they are willing to put in the effort to make the transfer of databases and server options from one point to another. And yeah, this one, which again, this probably not going to be able to be done now. As it was mentioned, this is for development plan ahead, and again, it was one of the biggest counterpoints in my opinion with that weird ass argument from Video Games of Europe. You are building yourself into this hole of not being able to make it viable to preserve the game or to make it accessible to the wider public. So from the fucking get-go, just make it so that it doesn't become a problem later down the line for you to actually create an end-of-life plan. Think of that plan from the very get-go and build the game around it, and make the decisions around that game for it.
More setup that should be preserved. The minimum viable build is going to depend on your specific game, but there are some general principles to follow. All core features and functionality should still be present if these features were being used. This includes single player modes, multiplayer functionality, and local play or co-op features. The key word here is core. If a feature was central to the game experience, it needs to work in the preserved version. Some extra features and functionality can be removed depending on the game, particularly those not needed for that core gameplay. Examples include leaderboards, online ranking systems, and other microservices not needed for the core gameplay loop, like payments, account moderation, or anti-cheat systems. These are nice to have features that enhance the experience but aren't essential for the game to function. The goal is to preserve the essence of what made your game enjoyable while removing the infrastructure burden that makes long-term support unsustainable. All right, so what does it take to replicate your server environment locally for preservation? What does it take that makes long-term support?
I'm gonna stop it here because from this point on, I feel like it's getting technically heavy, and honestly, I think these points cover it flawlessly, superbly, and I don't think there's any other reason because I think at the very least for the layman terms, these few talking points are more than enough, and I don't think that there's go more than this. And again, I've linked the video on the chat, so if you want to check out the full thing, it's that has been released and hosted by Ross Accursed Farms. Go ahead, especially for those who are more in the technical side of things and want to know how exactly these things can be handled. But yeah, honestly, this is the general thing. Like, it's so kind of, it's sensible. when you are talking about like core experiences, yes, the core experience, single player, multiplayer, and options for local play and co-op. That's it. Leaderboards, online ranking, all of these, like, yeah, nice to have, but these are not the core feature, because things like ranked play, leaderboards, or anything of the sort, those are not for the core audience. Those are for a specific player type. Because yes, every game, a lot of games, especially these days, are designed for multiple type of players. The players that like self-expression, the players that like, you know, bragging rights, and or like are the competitive type players who just. But when it comes to the and so many others, but when it comes to the general play experience, these are the main elements. These are just aspects and extra features and functionalities that enhance the experience for specific player types, but not for the specific core audience. Like the core audience would still enjoy it even without having access to these. Like, yeah, they would be nice. And again, as I mentioned here, core features. Maybe there are some extra features that in some other games would not be seen important, but maybe for this game is core. But this one at the very least put it in very simple amounts, simple terms. Like, yeah, we don't care if we don't have access to the microtransactions or like the store system. We don't care that we no longer have account moderations. If you give us the tools to make our own systems and our own moderation, then we'll have the community is gonna handle it itself. Similarly with anti-cheat. And to be fair, in some cases, some people are probably gonna be even more pro with it, because some anti-cheats are really invasive, can really tank performance, you know, and so many other things of that sort, like certain weird like online dependencies and that kind of thing. So honestly, as a developer, I think they've the first 17-ish minutes really covered it well and really kind of explained it, even for a layman's terms, at the very least for those few people who just at the very least want to get a quick understanding, just surface level. These points, I think, to me, at the very least, from my side of things, it are very convincing. Yes, from this point on, it's getting a bit more heavy, like how to manage other things back end. But yeah, there are core things like think of different solutions, how exactly and what exactly it's best fits for your product. Plan ahead. Think of it. You know, plan ahead so you're not gonna be stuck yourself in a rut, and you know, just focus on the core experience and minimum viable experience, like, and make sure that everything can be done as seamlessly and as smoothly as possible. But from the very get-go, it's not necessarily asked to be done from already existing. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if things move out the way they move, at best, maybe the EU Commission or like the European Parliament is gonna tell developers, like, for existing games, it would be appreciated but not required, and it's up to you if you want to do it. That would probably put you in the good graces of the entire of the majority of the gaming community if you were to make the effort, but it not necessarily have it mandatory for existing games. And I think like people even in that scenario will find understanding. And I really appreciate that, hey, they given actually really good examples of, hey, look at all these games that have done each of these solutions already and how they can actually be viable. And even big studios, like literally Nintendo out of everyone has done an amazing option of an end-of-life plan of just, here, have the full game as, you know, at a paid, you know, at paid price. No more online functionalities, no more microtransaction, no more server, and with full account transfer. So every progress so all the effort, time, and investment, both in time and money, is still there. So you've not lost anything. So it also respects the player, which is insanely. It's an insane thing done by Nintendo, in my opinion. But still, again, it can be done, and even from studios that some people have mixed opinions of. But anyways, I think I've talked enough about stopkillinggames, and I think this video probably summarizes a lot how viable it is. Again, if you want to really hear a lot of technical stuff from a developer and from people who are more into the technical side of things in general, because yeah, even if Olivia herself may not be a game developer, she's been within the IT business overall, and some of the practices and aspects of general like IT backend and infrastructures apply to video games as well. So some of her expertise and knowledge, it's still worth taking into account. And at the same time, it's also been done in collaborations with one of our co-workers who is a game developer. It's actually the founder of the studio, so they are viable arguments. So if you really want to be out there in the nitty-gritty of it all, here are a good option, a good selection of solution. And honestly, having it here open for free and be like, here, have all the information, and we are giving you the options already, even before we started discussing about it. Here are the options available to you that we already can suggest, so you can do something about it, and not just one that applies to everything. Like one for multiple scenarios. Like, there you go. Go ahead, do your thing. Just preserve games and respect the culture and the player's time and investment spent on the game. But yeah, I think that's more than enough. As I said before, this is my final push when it comes to streaming with stopkillinggames. Starting from Friday, when I'm probably gonna be back, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a stream tomorrow or the day after. You know, Wednesdays and Thursday. This is at the very least, this one is officially my final push streaming wise. It's stopkillinggames. So again, you have all the links. You had the QR the entire time of this video. I think it's gonna be an interesting time, and I'm positive, and I have a good feeling about it, and I'm hopeful that things are gonna turn out for the better. Now we're just gonna get into the more interesting side of things and see what exactly is gonna happen with it and where exactly it's gonna go. But yeah, before I go, I do want to check to see if there is somebody out there who can say hi to. That'd be nice. Exactly that. Just had like a general just chatting stream and not necessarily under any specific theme. I mean, not sure if there is anybody out there like doing a stream to a specific game that could be under these kind of effects with stopkillinggames. I don't know. Maybe one of those streams where I'm not actually rating anything, considering how improv and impromptu it was done. Think about it. You know what? Let's rate a fellow. Other years at the moment, so that thing. There we go. We are doing my job here to full place. Now they are beasts. That's a bit unfortunate on our end, but oh well. It is what it is. He's playing some Castlevania Symphony of the Night, so I guess vamp fighting other vamp type of business. So yeah, let's go ahead with that. Why not? So, but anyways, that's gonna be it for today. So when it comes to rating are the messages we sent out, so you keep in mind that. But yeah, thanks for being around. Again, this is my last push. It's been mostly a yapping stream. I think the first one that I've ever done, where it's just fully dedicated just yapping. I'm surprised I was able to run for like 4 hours doing only this. So yeah, interesting, surprised, impressed, even with myself. I'll take this as a win that, hey, I guess I can also be a just chatting streamer from time to time if needs be. At the very least, if the talking points are important and passionate to me. But anyways, that's gonna be it. Again, as I said, not sure if I'm gonna do any streams the next following days on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but at the very least Friday I'm gonna be back with the usual, more Lancer, talking about character creation, and Saturday we're doing some more 9 Souls, hopefully beating Lady Ethereal, because oh my god, she's beating my ass. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. Don't you forget that I had a hiccup. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.